Okay. Let me see if I can fix this mic here. It should be. Anyway, it should be working. Um. Jesus Christ, no. Okay. Let me turn the fan on. It is a beautiful day in terms of weather. Oh my gosh, what's going on with the lighting right now? There we go. And I think I don't know what that is, but I think it's okay for us to review some of this stuff. I mean, it's kind of maybe it's just easier to just say something instead of watching a whole video about it. However, yeah, Charlie Kirk has died. He got shot. Pretty sad for him and his family. Um, I also wanted to address that this video, I mean not the Hasanabi video, but the Trump video where he talks about it. It's very clearly AI. Trump, what's the dude's name? Yeah, Charlie Kirk video. And I will show you why I know it's AI.
Psychiatrist at Mainline Health.
This National Recovery Month, if you or a loved one is struggling with substance use, know that you don't have to face it alone. At Miramont Treatment Center, we're here to help you reclaim your life.
To my great fellow Americans,
And
I'm
we can
filled
see exactly
with grief
where,
and anger at the
when they move
heinous
this stuff, you'll be able to see
assassination
it.
of Charlie Kirk on a
Look
college
look at his
campus in
hands.
Utah. Charlie inspired
One thing
millions
that
to
AI
die
will
for
never
and
get
knew
right
him
is the hands.
and loved
Oh, you
him,
can't zoom
are
in there.
united in shock and horror. Charlie
All
was
right,
a
hold up.
patriot
Right there.
who devoted his life to the cause of open debate. Charlie was a and loved him,
Look.
are united in
Look at the
shock
hands.
and horror. Charlie was a patriot
Right there.
who devoted his life to the cause.
But
of
also, you don't
open
even
debate
need to look at the
and the
hands.
country that he loved so much, the United
You can
States of
really,
America.
if you just
He
listen
fought
to
for
the
liberty,
droning of it.
democracy, justice, and the American people. He's a martyr for truth and freedom, and
Like-
there's never been anyone who was so respected by youth. Charlie
Just listen
was
to the
also a
droning of
man
it.
of deep,
It's just
deep
round
faith.
and round and round. It's like
And we take
soulless
comfort
AI
in the
slop.
knowledge that he is now
But yeah, I just wanted to point that out. And then I saw Trump pictures today. I saw an image of him where it just didn't look like he was having the best of times. Looked like he might have had a stroke. I mean, this is also stuff that's being like talked about all the time and everywhere. It's not like I'm not coming up with some new thing. But yeah, like, so it would make sense that they would use an AI to release a message rather than let him speak, because he probably has like that stroke slur. But yeah, this is kind of just a sad state for the world. We're in a really weird place as a general global society. Old people are trying to take us down with them. And also just, just strange occurrences like people dying and stuff. But yeah, I mean, that's all I really have to say on that. I mean, I didn't really want to say anything, to be honest. I didn't think it was that important. I mean, not that. I mean, it's. I'm gonna stop here. I'm gonna stop saying anything, and I think we can talk about Pedro Albizu Campos. yeah, let's watch this video. And I'm gonna start up
Imagine
Minecraft
bringing your
as
side
well over
project to
here.
life just by thinking about it.
And I'm just gonna
Base
play some
44,
Minecraft for a little
a
bit, maybe like an
complete AI
hour.
creation platform.
There's a man whose name is barely whispered in American classrooms. A man who
gonna do
stared
some
down
creative
the
mode
most
stuff.
powerful empire on earth.
Not in
and
the
dared to
area that.
say, my people.
So, I have a realm that I have been building on. It's just the only world I've built on since I came back to Minecraft. I think like a year ago or something. So this realm has all of my builds and whatnot, and like every city I made. So that's where I'm at with this. Yeah, it's that's where I'm at. And I moved to a different location to build some creative mode stuff, and I left all the survival mode stuff that we had over at the original spot that I recorded last time. I left that untouched, so I'm not going to use creative mode in that area. I'm going to use it in the other
Are
areas.
not your colony. Pedro Albizu Campos, El Maestro. To some, a dangerous radical. To others, a freedom fighter. To Puerto Rico, he was a lion in chains. But why, 60 years after his death, does his story still unsettle the powerful? And why has history worked so hard to bury his name? Today, we uncover the truth. This is the story of Pedro Albizu Campos, Puerto Rico's unsung hero and the man who still terrifies the United States. This is Whispers of the Past, before the rebel, before the icon, before the government branded him dangerous and the people crowned him hero. There was just a boy in Ponce. Pedro Albizu Campos, born September 12, 1891, entered a Puerto Rico in transition. Spain had ruled the island for 4 centuries, but just 3 years after his birth, the United States invaded during the Spanish-American War and claimed Puerto Rico as war booty. The ink on the Treaty of Paris was barely dry when a new colonial master raised its flag over San Juan. But while empires changed hands, the people of Puerto Rico were never asked what they wanted. Pedro grew up in this contradiction, American by decree, Puerto Rican by soul. He was brilliant, a prodigy. He spoke 6 languages, studied literature, chemistry, military strategy, and law. At just 16, he earned a scholarship to study engineering at the University of Vermont. Later, he transferred to Harvard Law School, graduating with honors. He was the only Puerto Rican in his class, the only black man, and the only one who refused to shrink himself. But Harvard was no sanctuary. It was a battlefield. Professors and classmates treated him not as an equal, but as a curiosity. His skin color, his accent, his pride in Puerto Rico. They made him a target of casual racism and polite hostility. Instead of retreating, Pedro studied harder, spoke louder, fought smarter. He connected Puerto Rico's struggle to the global fight against empire, Ireland's resistance, Gandhi's awakening in India, the Haitian Revolution. To him, these weren't just stories. They were blueprints, warnings, invitations. And then came war. When World War I broke out, Pedro volunteered for the U.S. Army. Despite being a second-class citizen, he became a lieutenant, trained alongside African American and Caribbean officers. He put on the uniform of the very empire that occupied his homeland, not out of loyalty, but to claim the right to fight for his people. The war ended before he could deploy, but the experience scarred him. He saw how America treated its black soldiers. He saw the arrogance of empire up close, and he saw enough. When Pedro Albizu Campos returned to Puerto Rico in the 1920s, he was no longer shaped by Harvard. He was sharpened in spite of it. Puerto Rico in the 1920s was drowning in contradictions. The U.S. promised democracy, yet ruled with governors appointed from Washington. It spoke of civilization but gutted the local economy, handing vast plantation to American corporations. It imported textbooks and troops, suppressed the Spanish language, jailed anyone who spoke of independence. But Pedro saw through the illusion, and worse for the empire, he taught others to see it too. By 1930, he was president of the Puerto Rican Nationalist Party, and everything changed. No more petitions, no more begging, no more compromise with the system that stole their dignity. Pedro's voice thundered in plazas. To be a colony is to be a slave, and only slaves are asked to be grateful for their chains. He invoked Bolivar, he invoked Martí, he dared to call U.S. rule by its true name, occupation. That single word terrified Washington. Because if Puerto Rico was occupied, not protected, then America's mask of democracy would unravel. Pedro's words became actions. He organized youth brigades, opened training camps, demanded a cultural awakening. He warned of slow death if Puerto Ricans accepted second-class status. The FBI took notice. The colonial government branded him radical. But when he spoke, people came anyway, because it felt like the island was remembering itself. By the mid-1930s, the U.S. had enough. In 1935, police massacred 4 nationalists at Rio Piedras. Pedro's response, louder defiance. In 1936, he was arrested, tried before an all-white American jury, guilty of sedition, 10 years in a Georgia prison. But prison did not break him. He wrote letters, studied military strategy, sent coded messages. He never apologized. When he was finally released in 1947, frailer but unbroken, Puerto Rico was on edge. The gag law, La Ley de la Mordaza, made it illegal to display the Puerto Rican flag, sing patriotic songs, or even speak of independence. Imagine being jailed for waving your own flag. Pedro knew what it meant. The time for speeches was over. On October 30th, 1950, Puerto Rico erupted. Nationalists rose in Jayuya, Utuado, Peñuelas. They
Jayuya.
attacked police stations, burned outposts,
Jayuya.
declared Puerto Rico free. For 3 electric days, the
Jayuya.
island tasted rebellion. Washington responded with full force. Martial law, the National Guard, even warplanes. The U.S. bombed Jayuya. The first time in history America bombed its own territory. The rebellion was crushed, bodies in the streets, survivors hunted. Pedro arrested again. But what he had done could not be undone. He forced the empire to reveal its true face, and the idea of freedom spread into every barrio, every classroom, every cell. This time, the empire wanted more than to silence him. They wanted to destroy him. In La Princesa prison, Pedro's body began to fail. Burns, sores, tremors. He claimed radiation beams were being used against him. Guards mocked him as paranoid. Years later, U.S. documents confirmed radiation experiments had indeed been conducted on prisoners, minorities, the vulnerable. Pedro had been right. Even as his body broke, his spirit did not. Visitors smuggled letters, kissed his hands, pledged to fight on, because empires can kill a man, but they cannot kill a symbol. By 1964, Pedro was a ghost of himself, frail, trembling, nearly voiceless. On April 21, 1965, he died, but Puerto Rico erupted. Tens of thousands filled the streets. Flags once banned were raised high. Songs once criminal were sung openly. Mothers brought children to see the man who refused to kneel. His coffin was draped not in the U.S. flag but in Puerto Rico's, the flag he nearly died for. And while U.S. newspapers barely reported his death, his people knew a martyr had been made. Pedro warned his people, you can kill a man, but you cannot kill an idea whose time has come. And his questions still haunt the empire. Why in the 21st century is Puerto Rico still a colony? Why can Puerto Ricans die for America but not vote for its president? Why does the world's beacon of democracy hold one of the world's oldest colonies under its flag? These are the questions Pedro bled for, and these are the questions still unanswered. For decades, U.S. leaders tried to erase him. They banned his words, mocked his legacy, silenced his followers. But you cannot kill a truth that is still unfolding. In protests, in classrooms, in flags raised after hurricanes and blackouts, his spirit lingers. Pedro Albizu Campos wasn't just fighting for a country. He was fighting for a consciousness, the belief that dignity is not given, it is seized. So yes, Pedro Albizu Campos is long dead, but to the powerful, he's still a threat. Because every time someone asks, why isn't Puerto Rico free? Pedro answers from the grave, I told you. You just weren't ready to listen. At Whispers of the Past, we don't just tell forgotten stories. We resurrect the voices they tried to silence. And Pedro Albizu Campos was never silent. He was the storm in the mountains, the spark in the cane fields, the whisper carried by generations. Rise. If this story moved you, don't let it fade again. Like, share, and subscribe. Help us keep Pedro's name alive. Because when history is forgotten, power wins. Until next time, listen closely. Because the past still speaks.
Build a website you love with Wix. For your words, create.
It's easy to forget that the US still has colonies.
I don't know what to watch, and I really don't want to really watch anything, honestly.
Brother Nakwa.
No, I'm not watching that. A lot of people really cared about that, but I don't know. It just feels like a psyop to me, honestly. It feels like they're trying to get us to care about something that is just not. I mean, like, it's a death, but come on. Like, can we talk about something else? Can we talk about the political and economic state of the world right now? But anywho, I actually just want to watch something just super chill. I want to watch a chill video, man. Just a lot of weird shit going on. It's another situation. Let's see, Hope Core. You know what I mean?
Here's my problem. Every time I go on my phone, it is one of the worst experiences of my life. This tweet, basically. And I'm worried that because of my phone, I'm getting dumber. Like, real freaking dumb. Like, I'm just doing this all the time, and it's just going blah, 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 and I'm getting less conscientious. My critical thinking's going down. I'm becoming more self-conscious. My self-doubt and my paranoia is increasing. My sense of discipline and rationality are both under attack. I feel more apathetic, less engaged, and true optimism just feels further and further out of reach. And I am sick of it. I've had enough. And I know what it means to say enough. I'm a former drug addict and alcoholic, baby. After 15 years of using substances to run for myself, I got sober. But I have noticed that the exact same thoughts are popping up when it comes to my phone. Excuses, rituals, stress, irritation, always needing to know where my phone is, compulsively using it even though I know it's bad for me, and making weird little justifications to myself as to why I definitely need it in my pocket right now, why I deserve it, why it's not that bad. Addict thoughts. And I know I am not the only one. What is this video, you might be wondering? Well, this is going to be where I want to take things next with this channel. Because I'm serious when I say, what we are witnessing right now is potentially the greatest mental robbery of all time. It is a horrible heist of human potential, dude. Like 30 years ago, phones had 0 hours of our time as a species. Now the average person with a smartphone uses them for 5 hours a day. That is billions of hours just gone. Gone. Stolen by a machine which can be an outrage machine, but a machine that can also be a beautiful connection and hope machine. And I think it's up to us to actually be that difference. Alright, quick story. My favorite sci-fi book as a kid was called Will Buster and the Gelman Helmet. Here's how it goes. There is this kid, Will Buster, set a few hundred years in the future, and one day, out of the blue, he gets selected to go to this school, wherein a revolutionary professor named Gelmet takes the brightest students that he can find and subjects them to his new learning device, the Gelmet Helmet. It's a helmet that you put on, and then for 7 hours you're just completely asleep, and then you wake up and you have more knowledge. Will Buster loves it, because now the boring parts of school are taken care of, he has a million people telling him he's special, and he's getting smarter. So, the school year goes on, and Will makes friends at his new school. He puts on the Gelmit helmet 7 hours a day, takes it off, he's just learning automatically. Things are going great. Soon, Gelmit will be taking his helmet everywhere. Except, Will and his friends notice something that doesn't quite fit. In addition to getting smarter, they've also noticed that some of their tendencies have been somewhat exaggerated. His best friend notices that her empathy has become downright chaotic emotionality. Will notices that his confidence has transcended into full stubborn arrogance. While they are under the spell of the Gelmit helmet, yes, they're becoming smarter, but they are also becoming one-dimensional caricatures of themselves. But why? Why is this happening? Well, turns out, this isn't a bug. It's a feature. Professor Gelmit is evil. And while Will and his friends got selected to go to Gelmit's good school, they stumble upon Gelmit's other school. In this second school, students are manipulated to become followers, to become passive, powerless, and obedient. He marketed himself as this revolution in education, but all he wanted to know was how to control people. And he found out. Lure them in with some bright offer, bombard them with information until they forget who they are, get them into a fugue state, and then manipulate them. Stress them out, make them feel frazzled, and when you've got them at breaking point, trap them by turning their worst traits against themselves. At what cost do we put all this stuff in our brain? At the cost of having our humanity reduced. That's the point that Odo Hirsch is making. It's a great book. It was written about 20 years ago, maybe even more. So yeah, long before the internet even hinted at doing what it has done, long before we had the Gelmit helmet in our frickin' pocket, and it stayed with me. It stayed with me to the point where I am now starting to see it in everyday life. And I need to make a change because, I don't know, I really don't want to wake up in like 20 years' time and realize that I have spent 30 hours a week on my phone, that I could have been building something. Or I don't want my kids to one day say, hey, every time I looked up, you're on your phone. That would be my biggest freaking nightmare. I don't want my kids to have like a screen addicted dad. And from their point of view, they sort of don't. But when they go to bed, oh my God, they do. Oh my God, I'm so bad with my phone. I put them to bed and then I'm just like this freaking dude who just gets sucked into the vortex. And I'm like, what else is bad? Oh, cool. Oh yeah, that's crazy. Oh, true. Damn, then it's like 3 a.m. and I'm like, this must be somebody else's fault.
If you're just joining us, nothing matters anymore.
Here's some bullshit that happened somewhere today.
Everything is awful.
Breaking news, everything is bad. It's just as terrible as you imagined and probably worse.
This bullshit has some broader implications.
It's awful.
That looks bad.
Yeah, probably bad.
People are feeling really quite exhausted right now.
It's awful, Ma.
That's the sound of us slowly dying. Can you hear it?
I can hear it. It's louder in my left ear.
When we return, we'll look at live footage
There
of
was
a
a
car
faster
chase
way to
taken
go
from
shit.
a helicopter.
I mean, I know
Free
there's...
associate about what's going on.
But yeah,
Might
man,
be a
I
man that
have
can
had
do it.
enough of that
remember
part
how
of
to do it,
me,
though.
and I need to squash it. The two big things that have helped me beat addiction in the past is reframing and replacement over removal. Reframing, when it came to alcohol and drugs, mine was asking the question, how is this, which referred to a very shameful hangover, the best thing that has ever happened to me? And the only way that I could answer that properly was if it was the last hangover I ever had. Now that worked really well in that scenario. It doesn't quite transpose onto this one. So let's look at the other one, replacement over removal. The first major attempt that I made to quit drugs was when I started this YouTube channel.
Every time I feel like getting cooked, instead I'm gonna turn on the camera and make a movie. Instead of drugs and drinking, it's YouTube and thinking. Baby. Bow, 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 bow. That's what this is, me getting my shit together in public.
Now, I want to bring back that energy. I've just finished the Alphabet Superset. This was 26 documentaries, each on a different topic, starting from A to Z, and I just finished. I'm pretty stoked. I've learned a lot. I'll come up with like a lessons video pretty shortly because, oh my God, that project, I'm a different person at the end. But the takeaways that are relevant here are existential problems, problems of the soul, they are solved with creativity. And I don't mean creativity like you have to paint a picture, I mean making anything. I mean being generative. I mean the fact that depression is the opposite of expression, you know, putting it out there. Expressing yourself. The second big lesson is back yourself. As so many of us have, or have become increasingly, I have been plagued by extreme self-consciousness. Part of that is just how I am built, and another part of that is the internet and what it does to you when you are just constantly aware of who you are, how you come across, your brand, my friend. A lot of that was actually stopped one day when I saw this post that said, but what will the dumbest person alive think? And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is what's stopping me. Every time I second guess myself and not back myself, I am catering to the dumbest person alive. I don't need to do that. They're gonna be dumb. and mean and nasty. Like the type of person who willfully interprets something in the least charitable way in order to make their mean world hypothesis come true. That's how I see that type of dumb. What will they think? Oh God, who cares? Who cares? They're just gonna think it anyway. And then the third lesson that I have learned is that you are what you eat. What you put into your head is what comes out. Throughout the Alphabet Superset, I went through all of these different phases, all of these different interests, and they all shone through in the pieces that I made. And I was stoked on that, because it's like, it's kind of cool. But
Sorry, he's
the
stuck in the
more
corner
I
there.
started consuming the 24-hour news cycle, the more negative a lot of my stuff became, and the less optimism, the less hope that I found that I was, putting out into the world. Those are the three big lessons. Depression is the opposite of expression, back yourself, and you are what you eat. And I want these three things to be the guiding principles of what I make for the foreseeable future. And this doesn't stop with me feeling it. What I really want is to give it to other people. Or more accurately, I want to give it back to people, because 2025 for me has been a significant change in how I view generosity. Two massive things happened to me this year. So the first was I won't mince words, had my life saved by blood donors. And the second was I had my life saved by you. Whoever is watching this on the other side, who freed me from predatory debt. Debt for money that I didn't borrow. Debt where I was just the guarantor. And I honestly thought that my life was over. Like, I thought about taking the easy way out. Yeah, that definitely crossed my mind a couple of times, because it's like, how the hell do you claw out of that? My last resort was to ask people on the internet, and people delivered. And I didn't really know what to make of it. But the lens that makes sense to me right now is to see it as a live internet theory. I don't have a better label than this, and I say that because the label is freaking amazing, but I didn't come up with it. I've just read this a bunch of places, but I'm just gonna slap it on. A live internet theory. We all know dead internet theory, the fact that most of the internet is run by bots. This is somewhat confirmed, by the way, which is mind-blowing. Comments, tweets, content, videos, they are all made by things that are lifeless. Of course, this creates a secondary dead internet, and that is the humans that are using the internet amongst all of these zombie bots. Instead of feeling normal, we feel wrong. And now we have a live internet theory. It's the theory that even though most of the internet is bots or is people who've got what I call bot dysmorphia, it's like body dysmorphia, but you've read too many bot comments and now your head's gone, there is still another side of the internet. And then it's up to us to make those two sides. This is the theory that the people out there are actually people. And it's really easy to forget this. It is so easy to forget this. And so the average user gets on and prepares for the worst. They prepare for the gnarly comment sections. They prepare for the algorithm to punish them. They prepare to be served just rage bait. And this creates a culture where those of us who are alive on the internet start to feel like maybe this isn't worth it. Or maybe people don't want to feel good. Maybe the market for optimism just isn't there. Maybe it's insensitive. Maybe nobody really cares anymore. It's that weird gap in perception that we have between a video only getting 100 views and what it would be like to talk in front of 100 people listening to what you have to say. 100, 1,000, 10,000. A live internet theory is the reminder that these are real people. Real people with 3D lives, with intricate connections to their family, with cool stories, with nuance, with ideas, with dreams, with hopes for the future, with the ability to change things and put new things into the world that are complex and brilliant and lovely. Real humans.
We get to choose what we fill this internet with.
And I really like the name, because of course we all know dead internet theory. And I've come to the conclusion that if we think the spirit of this place is dead, then it is. But if we think the spirit of this place is alive, then it also is. In both cases, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. But there's only one outcome that I want. The internet can usher in a new era of optimism. And I mean like a really anti-establishment sense of optimism, because who benefits when you feel hopeless? It ain't you. It's whoever gets your money, man. Call it the media, the government, some freaking budding cult leader. They all benefit when you feel hopeless. It's people who either want to maintain the status quo or want power over you, or have found ways to monetize your despair. Maybe it's phone addiction, maybe it's alcohol addiction, maybe it's keeping you in the 24-hour news cycle, maybe it's convincing you that you don't have power, and every time that you show a glimpse of power, it wants to squash you down because it's scared. Whatever it may be, if it's internal, if it's your own sense of resistance, or if it's external, if you can point to something clear that is actually doing this to you. And when that doom saturates the world, the idea that the world could be better sometime in the future, in the near future, in the future that we're all walking into together, is legitimately revolutionary. In a way where hope is actually punk. So I guess what I want to leave you with is coming back to those three things. Expression, not depression, backing yourself, and you are what you eat. 3 questions to ask yourself. How would you prefer to express yourself in this world? And are there ways that not doing that is leading you to feel depressed? Question 2. How much out of 10 do you back yourself? 5, 4, 8? Why didn't you say one number lower? Start making the case for you. And question 3, what are you going to feed your mind today? Those are the big 3 questions. My answers are being looser, weirder, more experimental, no longer catering to the dumbest people alive, and anything that isn't served to me via an algorithm. It's up to us to actually be that difference. I don't want any person who is watching this, who is feeling these words, to boo themselves off stage before they even had a chance to perform. Those aren't my words. This is a beautiful tweet that I saw that I turned into a collage. As I was putting this together, it made me realize that this was a live internet theory in action. I like this person's words, and I feel them. And I want you to feel them too. Or in the words of that other tweet, every time I go on my phone, it's one of the worst experiences of my life. My mission is to make you feel the opposite. I want you to get on here, feel good, feel so good that you get off here. And I might not be able to change too much in this world, but I know I can make that change. I want you to feel inspired, excited, and alive.
At ShopRite, we are all about family here, and value too. Making meals quick, easy, and delicious while saving you time and money. It's all about the little moments you cherish with the savings we all need. ShopRite.
Another one about
we are
lust.
here.
This is
Intuition,
anyway.
the instinct inside. The inner
Another
voice
one.
over the noise. Ask yourself and listen.
Let's watch this.
I was hanging out with my friend about 5 months back, and we were having a great time jumping up on the bed like a couple of monkeys, and it was super fun. My girl was clapping for us, but his girl said, "You guys are grown men. Why are you doing this?" He stopped jumping on the bed. I continued to jump on the bed. He said, "Hey man, we do something else?" I was confused because my friend always had this childlike energy within his soul and his body, and I watched it immediately sap down and lose from himself the instant his girl told him not to. 7 years before that, another instance like that happened. I remember me and my friend were going to hang out. We were going to have a sleepover. Oh my God, sleepover. It was super fun. I was super excited to have a sleepover with my friend, and I kept calling it a sleepover. And I made a Facebook status saying, me and my boy about to have the greatest sleepover of all time. I showed the Legos we had laid out. I had hot chocolate, had marshmallows, had graham crackers, had a fire pit set up in my backyard. I was really excited. I was super excited to just hang out, have a good time with my friend. His girl reacted the status and said, "Wow, grown man, by the way." This was 7 years ago. He messaged me and said, "Hey man, can you take that status down? I'm really not feeling the status." He came over and we did all the things, but during so, he cried in my arms and said, "I don't know if I can be myself around my partner." I looked him deep in the eyes and said, "Break up with her." He said, "No, I love her too much. I think I'll just have to grow as a person." But which way are you growing? Upward or downward? Rooting yourself to become worse, or growing upward towards the skies to see the infinite potential in the open space? Which way are you growing? I always get curious about that. Why am I bringing this up? Recently, I've been seeing a large trend of what's called a nonchalant guy. I'm nonchalant, I'm chill, I'm cool, I'm vibing, I'm rocking. And where does it come from? What is nonchalant? I mean, it's whatever, I guess. I mean, it's cool. I'm just vibing, I'm just chilling, It's nothing big. It's cool, it's whatever. It's fine. Nonchalant is a dilemma. It's a huge dilemma, and it's been a dilemma for quite some time. It's a fun joke. I like it. But it addresses a bigger issue inside of the bigger mindscape of how we operate as people. You see, how does a man or a woman become nonchalant? Back in the day, I used to go through the forest, and I would pick up sticks. and I would have fun time. Like, this is the biggest stick, and with my friends that are guys, we still go out in the forest and pick up sticks. However, my friends get into relationships. They invite their girls out so we can go out and pick up sticks together. And the girls are confused about why they do this. Now, it's not all women. I know someone's going to comment and say, well, not all women are like this. I hope he picks you. Stop commenting that. Get off my video. Anyways, picks up the stick. Boom, we're having a great time picking up sticks. And the girls will always say, wow, this is what y'all do for fun? Well, yeah, it's better than drinking and ruining our livers. It's better than smoking and sitting around and just thinking we're going to write the next screenplay and then thinking we're having evangelical, amazing, godlike ideas based off of the nonsense of smoking. By the way, I've never smoked or drank in my entire life, but that's what happens when people smoke or drink all the time. It's better than doing that and ruining our bodies. We could go work out. You guys want to work out after this? Yeah, and we'll work out at the open public gym. Just naturally at most parks. We'll just go to the park and work out. Regular. It's very casual workout. And we'll compliment each other and we'll say very homoerotic comments saying, ooh, look at those big muscles, big boy. Yeah, I'm big boy. I'm fricious. I'm the biggest boy on the planet. You already know what's going on. We're just having a great time.
If you fall below the speed of 3 miles per hour, warning, you get your ticket. Warning. There's one winner.
The girls will always be confused saying, oh, you're a little zesty, you're a little this, you're a little that. Thank you for contributing to homophobia. Don't really know what to do with that information. But a man, when he hears that, doesn't want to disappoint his woman. And his mindset goes to a deep, dark place. Naturally, as men, we are told to repress that deep part of ourselves. That deep part of ourselves that wants to be fun and a childlike, that wants to play video games. We'll repress that. And that happens. It's why we get so deeply into games like Call of Duty, to take out our anger of the world. Because we don't have a healthy way to express our emotions. We don't. Not in any capacity. So we end up becoming nonchalant.
I'm good.
He'll say, come on, baby, look at this. Isn't this so cute? And you'll say, that's whatever. When you naturally, you would have been excited to talk about her nails.
Yeah, let's watch this thing.
I just wanted to get my life in order. I almost died in this.
Remove.
I mean, you're gonna think I'm stupid, but the conversation was about the moon. I think there's some deeper meaning why it exists. It's a fake moon. There's people inside of it watching his every movement. I think there's some agent of the moon that's controlling communication between us and the moon.
Okay.
4 years ago, Legend Finder makes his way to the YouTube platform. His first few uploads were nothing special until he stumbled across a Minecraft forum, explaining ways you can interact with the moon in Minecraft. Slowly but surely, his channel would become dedicated to this moon ARG, and allow us to witness Legend Finder's slow descent into insanity. How could a Minecraft theory cause someone to go mentally insane? Viewer discretion is advised. The story of Legend Finder will be my most disturbing video yet.
Love a good old-fashioned go crazy video. Can I change the name of a stream after I started it? Is that possible?
In order to understand what started Legend Finder's obsession of the moon, we have to go back to July 30th of 2020. Yo, got into another project today. Spent a few hours literally working on a Minecraft iceberg.
I don't know.
Why? Just because the only Minecraft iceberg right now is freaking terrible. At first, Legend Finder planned on creating a document that listed a bunch of obscure mysteries or glitches in the game. So he was searching for weird Minecraft rumors, so he decides to let his friends know about what he was working on. Hey guys, I'm making a Minecraft iceberg.
Oh, wait, reminds me of this one weird post I found. You could probably call it Don't Look at the Moon or whatever.
What?
Okay, hang on, let me DM this to you.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete AI creation platform.
Something about this just doesn't
Describe what you
feel
want
complete.
and watch it take shape. You can plan, customize, and expand in any direction. From tools built for one to platforms ready for many. From passion projects to enterprise-grade systems. Everything is built in and ready to launch. It's a new world
Let's
of
try
creation,
this.
where you can go as far as your imagination takes you. Can you imagine it? Let's make your dream a reality right now.
That's pretty cool.
Okay, look at this.
Wall of text.
It's interesting, trust me.
Yeah, I know. Let me read it. I mean, most of these just sound like BS people made up on the spot.
True, but it's at least something for the iceberg.
Mayflower sends Legend Finder a post he found, listing 8 different ways you can interact with the moon in Minecraft, with rumors like if you jump into an end portal at exactly midnight, the end asteroids won't spawn and you'll be left in the dark. It's also clear Legend and Mayflower don't believe in the stuff listed in the screenshot. Nonetheless, Legend adds it to his chart, and some time goes by before 2 months later, a Reddit post is made by the user Probot748. After countless hours of researching, I present to you the Minecraft iceberg, and all the way at the very bottom of the list is don't look at the moon, so I think you can figure out who Probot is. But the post ends up doing really well. In fact, a lot of icebergs were made using his chart. This was a while ago, but do you remember that Minecraft iceberg I made 2 months ago? Obviously you do. It did pretty good on Reddit. It might become the most popular one now. But now you're probably thinking, how does someone go mentally insane if they don't even believe in this stuff? Well, after Legend posted the iceberg, he linked a document he made going over every single topic. And all the way at the very bottom of the document is don't look at the moon. Still, I decided to test them out for myself. And when you click on the link, it sends you to a video called Look at the Moon, uploaded by Legend Finder, marking the beginning of Minecraft's darkest rabbit hole. Legend Finder would begin testing the moon rumors to confirm whether they're real or not, with the first video of the series going over the first rumor. If a clock is in your hand, it'll go haywire if you stare at the moon and go behind the wall. Rumor 1 done, I think.
Nice.
You won't believe what happened.
What? Did something actually happen?
Nothing.
Bruh.
The hell were you expecting? That was like the most unbelievable one on the list.
I'm holding out hope, man.
Same, to be honest. It seems Legend and Mayflower still don't believe in these moon rumors. Nonetheless, a few days go by before Legend uploads his second video going over the second rumor, which says if you stand at the entrance of a cave while staring at the moon will glitch out the game and double the speed the moon travels. And so the next minute and 30 seconds is Legend showing us what happens.
No! Wait, why the phone camera now?
I mean, think about it. If this was actually true, it could probably crash my computer. If my computer crashes, I probably lose my recording.
Oh, fair.
Legend also happens to be sick. He wrote about it in his journal a few days ago saying, writing this with the worst headache of my life. I'm gonna die. So Mayflower tells him to go see a doctor, but Legend says he's gonna get some pills. And fast forward a few days, Legend says he got pills, the cheapest one. He never really explains what pills he got, and Mayflower doesn't bother to ask what pills mean exactly. And he also got the cheapest ones. I don't know, me personally, if I'm buying medicine, I wouldn't want to get the cheapest one. Just remember this information because I will get back to it. On that same day, Legend uploads 2 new videos to the list. Apparently, if you jump into the end at exactly midnight, the end asteroids don't spawn, meaning the end would just be completely gone. And when Legend goes through,
in Puerto Rico, music is life. If you can hear the music, you're invited to.
before you freak out, turns out Legend's computer was just taking a minute to load, and he purposely cut the video off because he thought it would be creepy. Again, Legend isn't taking this seriously. But then we move on to the 4th video, and here he has to stare at the moon for the entire night, which will apparently cause the game to glitch out, and once day hits, everything will be set on fire. And so for the next 10 minutes, Legend stares at the moon, and then we get this. So computer crashed right after the moon dipped below the horizon too. Might just be my computer though. Only way to know for sure is if my world gets set on fire like the rumor said. No fire equals not true. He goes on Discord to tell Mayflower what happened. I don't know what the f happened.
In the video?
New video.
Did something happen though?
Not gonna spoil it.
Fudge you. Okay, let me watch it, I guess.
I'm actually like, I'm shaking. I don't think it's directly. I don't know, man.
Skip to the end. Holy sh! That can't be a coincidence, right? Oh crap. Did you do rumor 5 though? The one with the item frames?
I started it, but I don't really know what to do with them. But bro, it crashed the computer. But then Mayflower says this.
Devil's advocate. Your Mac just up.
It did crash a few days ago too, during the
Bruh, then it's just your computer. When'd you get your computer?
I don't remember exactly, but I know it was not long after we moved into our apartment, so late 2012. Which is a lot of time, I know.
That's 8 effing years. How is it still working?
Legend ends up concluding that it was probably just his computer being old, but then again, he still hasn't logged back into the world after his computer crashed. Fast forward 3 days, and Legend still doesn't seem to feel well.
The crash didn't mess up your game, right?
Oh, right, I haven't checked yet. Man, I have the worst headache.
Are the pills not for headaches?
No, they are. Actually, they help a lot, but it's not really going away. I'll try booting up Minecraft in a few days. I've been in bed since morning. Later that day, Legend uploads a new video, and we finally see if, like the rumor said, the entire world gets set on fire. I think the rumor was wrong. It doesn't result in fire, it results in endstone? Everything endstone, like the moon. So I stumbled in some sort of Minecraft mystery. I don't know how to progress, but crap, this is cool, and I think I'm the only person to find it. I could only enter the world once before the game refused to let me back in. Maybe I missed my chance? This is definitely strange. We've never heard of a Minecraft world turning completely into endstone. Like Legend said, the endstone block resembles the texture of the moon. But even with this crazy information, Legend wouldn't even update Mayflower about this until the next day.
So?
Oh, right. I checked yesterday.
Oh?
The world was completely corrupted. Let me upload the video. Hang on.
Doesn't that mean the rumor's true, though?
On the screenshot you posted, it claimed my world was supposed to be set completely on fire, but that wasn't the case.
There is a way to
So it's
fill
dubious,
this. I
but
just can't
plausible.
remember
All
how to
endstone?
do it.
Yeah,
I gotta look it up.
definitely strange.
How long were you in that world?
Then they start getting off topic before the conversation just ends. Like, this is just something that happens every other day. But that's where I was wrong. 2 days after, Legend uploaded another video going over the 5th rumor, which says clocks placed in item frames may randomly desynchronize, going faster or slower than they should. This only happens every 1,000 or so clocks. This video is short and hard to see, but just by increasing the brightness, we can just barely see the clocks in the item frames. And I seriously couldn't tell you why, but something happens in this video. And not like in the video, like something in Legend just switches after this video. Compared to his other stuff, this one is more ominous and eerie. The description says this project was never finished. I hope you understand. We can't tell if the rumors are true because it's so dark we can't see if the clocks are desynchronized. Maybe there's something that Legend sees that we don't. And the reason I say this is because moments after this video is uploaded, Legend snaps and things get interesting when he gets on Discord. Yeah, I'm not buying it. No way this is just a f***ing coincidence.
I thought we already agreed or Mac did it.
1, right after the moon dipped past the horizon. 2, all the blocks replaced with endstone, the closest texture to the moon.
It literally crashed a few days before that moon thing, man. Your computer's just on its last legs. It'll probably be permanently effed in a week or so, just saying. And it's probably just confirmation bias.
No, you're not listening. Look at point 2.
Okay, cool. It switched everything to endstone. You know what else would have made you just as shocked? White concrete, white wool, quartz, literally anything white.
Doubt it. Endstone specifically carries connotations of space. It's inherently supposed to be extraterrestrial rock.
It's inherently supposed to be from the end, man. The F are you on about?
Oh my god, obviously it's limited by the constraints of Minecraft, but the symbolism is there.
You're just creating the effing symbolism.
What else could it be?
Your computer
What is
crashing,
this? What am I watching?
All pointers pointing to a random
All right,
block
let me
or text or
fucking put
whatever.
something else
Oh my
on.
effing god, seriously, you got everything from the Minecraft wiki. You know how extensive they are?
You're just deflecting.
If this could happen,
let's watch a Hasanabi video. Ugh. Fucking boring. Boring life. Maybe I should go out and do something.
Dude, it's so crazy that, like, the American government is so out of pocket. They don't even care about Americans. All right, let's do this. Every insane conspiracy theory that turned out to be true.
Colby, the CIA director at the time, had to testify in front of a committee that was investigating the CIA. This happened because there were many accusations of assassinations of foreign and American politicians from the CIA. So the US Senate put it under investigation for alleged covert action abuses, which resulted in 14 reports of major abuses by the CIA, FBI, and NSA. However, there was an accusation or conspiracy theory that was much more worrying than the rest of them. It was thought that the CIA had developed a pistol that could fire a poisoned dart from around 300 feet, cause death, and leave no trace of what the cause was. When William Colby declared that they had a poison dart gun that was potentially basically completely silent, felt like a mosquito bite to the target, went through clothes, caused a heart attack, and left no traces but a small red spot because the dart melted, the public was shocked. Furthermore, it was revealed that this wasn't an isolated case. It was part of Project MK Naomi, a project designed to increase US biological and chemical warfare capabilities. This was the only time this gun was shown in public.
Nice.
USA's fake Cuban terrorist attack. In 1962, during the Cold War, tensions between the US and Cuba were high because Fidel Castro had risen to power in Cuba and allowed communists to join the new Cuban government, nationalized US businesses, and improved relations with the Soviet Union. Furthermore, the Cuban Missile Crisis happened when the Soviet Union placed nuclear missiles capable of hitting...
Unacceptable. Wait, you can tell a lot about an account's politics and understanding of historical... understanding of a history if they mention what preceded the Cuban Missile Crisis. Very important. Now, of course, as a Turkish man, this hits close to home. As a Turkish man, this hits a little close to home because, once again, Turkey not mentioned, okay? But Turkey at the table. Once again, Turkey at the table. Turkey is the table. For those of you who don't know,
I don't know much about this.
Said that they were the USSR said that they were going to put missiles on Cuba, directed in the United States of America's direction after the United States of America put NATO missile bases in Turkey.
Soil after the U.S. placed theirs on Italy and Turkey. Operation Northwoods was a plan by the United States.
Respect. Hey, respect to the paint explainer. Okay, respect. You can tell a lot. You can tell a lot about a YouTuber and their genuine interest and genuine curiosity in history and understanding of the world by what they choose to omit and what they choose to mention, specifically Turkey. Very important to mention.
Department of Defense to stage terrorist attacks against American citizens and blame the Cuban government
I didn't know
in
that.
order to justify a war against Cuba. They wanted to hijack civilian planes and make them appear as if U.S. Air Force planes were shot down by Cuba to simulate the downing of a U.S. fighter jet off the coast of Cuba to blow a U.S. ship and to organize terrorist attacks in U.S. cities. The plan also included creating a Cuban communist terror campaign in the Miami area, in other Florida cities, and even in Washington, which would involve bombings.
By the way, how insane is that the federal government, like our state intelligence apparatus, was actively talking about doing this?
Civilian targets. The plan was approved by the Joint Chiefs of Staff, but was ultimately rejected by President John F. Kennedy because it would have been too risky and could have led to a full-scale war with the Soviet Union. CIA's fake animals. In the 1970s, the CIA developed what they called the Insectothopter, which was a drone the size of a dragonfly and hand-painted to look like one. It was kept secret until December 2003, when it was revealed to the public at the CIA Museum, and the project was abandoned because it was too difficult to fly in crosswinds. Another similar project was the AeroVironment Nano Hummingbird, created with specifications given by the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency.
What am I doing
These
with my
weren't
life
the only
right now?
times they used animals or crafted fake animals to spy on their enemies. During the Cold War, they developed a camera so light that it could be carried by pigeons in order to take aerial photos.
I wonder what happened to John F. Kennedy. Does anybody know? Like, after he said he didn't want to do the whole, like, false flag terror attack that would kill American citizens. Sure hope he, had a wonderful blossoming presidential career to completion. Seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders.
And they even trained some of these pigeons to drop eavesdropping devices onto window ledges. However, despite successfully placing some of these devices, no usable audio was captured from them. They even used fake fish to secretly check water samples for the presence of nuclear runoff or other suspicious substances. USA's fake Vietnam attack. In 1964, tensions between the United States
this account is amazing.
and North Vietnam were at an all-time high, and things worsened on the 2nd of August when North Vietnamese forces shot at a U.S. destroyer while it was doing a covert operation close to North Vietnamese territorial waters. The U.S. government then, on the 4th of August, said that a second attack happened, while this was false. The commander of the Maddox, Captain John Herrick, initially reported the attack but later expressed doubts, attributing the radar signals to freak weather effects. And despite these uncertainties, the Lyndon Johnson administration relied on misinterpreted communications intercepts to conclude that the attack was real. Also, in October 2005, the New York Times reported that Robert J. Hanyuk, an historian for the NSA, concluded that the NSA distorted intelligence reports passed to policymakers. He said agency staff deliberately skewed the evidence to make it appear that an attack had occurred. This was probably done with the goal of providing the Johnson administration with the justification needed for military action in Vietnam. Years after the incident, Robert McNamara, the Secretary of Defense during the time, admitted himself that the August 4th attack had
Wait a minute, what?
Never occurred. The Johnson administration was probably just seeking a reason to escalate American involvement in Vietnam as Cold War tensions increased, and the domino theory made its way through the U.S. military, which said that the fall of one country to communism would lead to the fall of others in the region, causing more fear. Because of this false operation, Congress passed the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, granting President Johnson broad powers to conduct military operations in Vietnam without a formal declaration of war. Canada's gay radar. At that time...
What? Okay, this one I didn't know either. What are we talking about? Every insane conspiracy theory that turned out to be true. That America staged a fake attack to... America created a fake attack to set the stage to invade Vietnam. That the CIA has a heart attack gun. That America openly, like the CIA openly tried to do a false flag terror incident to also set the stage to invade Cuba.
Homosexual people were persecuted by the Canadian government, and they were trying to find new ways to get rid of them from public jobs, especially the police and military. In the 1960s, Dr. Frank Robert Wake, a psychology professor at Carleton University, developed what's called the gaydar or fruit machine, which was a series of psychological tests with the purpose of...
Okay, this is so funny because it's like, dog, you're Canadian. It's gonna do false positives across the board, you know?
Of identifying gay men. It worked by using erotic images and what were thought to be homosexual words to see if there were any physiological changes that could point to a sexual arousal, such as the dilation of their pupils. Of course, this machine was completely pseudoscientific and unreliable. The room's light could change the dilation of the pupil, and many more outside variables made it faulty. Nonetheless, these tests caused hundreds, if not thousands, of people to get fired. The US government poisoned alcohol.
Damn.
From 1920 to 1933, the United States banned alcohol, entering the prohibition.
Imagine going into the Canadian government sanctioned gaydar and getting a false positive and losing your job.
Era. This made the alcohol black market flourish, enabling criminal organizations like the mafia to enrich themselves. So the United States government had to find a way to stop this. They went to extreme lengths to try to reduce the black market's activity and to make people stop drinking, but their efforts had poor results. So the government became frustrated and started adding large amounts of methyl alcohol, a substance that made the illegal drinks really dangerous, as a very small amount of undiluted methyl alcohol could kill a human being. This was probably done thinking that the black market sellers would have avoided selling poisoned alcohol to their customers, as they would have lost them when they died. But they didn't take into account that the demand for illegal alcohol was so booming at the time that the sellers didn't really care about their customers' lives. The effects quickly showed. In 1926, in New York City, 585 people died from this government action, and over 5,000 fatalities from this poisoning, at least a 600% increase.
I don't know this either.
From the previous deaths from alcohol were said to have resulted in the entire country. CIA's fake vaccines. During the hunt...
I didn't know this. This account is amazing.
For Osama bin Laden, the CIA conducted a secret operation using a fake hepatitis vaccination program in Pakistan to illegally collect blood samples and confirm the presence of bin Laden or his family. The CIA planned to compare the DNA samples collected from the program with the DNA of bin Laden's sister, who had died in Boston in 2010. The program ultimately failed. It led to the arrest of a participating doctor, Shakil Afridi, and was widely criticized for undermining public health. The operation is blamed for increasing vaccine hesitancy in Pakistan and triggering violence against healthcare workers, who were perceived as spies. As a result, Pakistan saw a resurgence of polio, becoming the country with the highest number of polio cases in the world by 2014. The CIA director issued a directive in 2013 prohibiting the agency from using vaccination programs for operational purposes, including
Would it shock you to find out that the CIA deliberately spread vaccine misinformation as recently as 2021 and 2022. I wonder if he'll talk about this, but China, in an effort to increase soft power and also not be weird, gross, profit-seeking monsters, decided to send Sinovac, their own COVID vaccine, to the Philippines. Now, if you know anything about China, there's a lot of, let's just say, back and forth, a lot of water wars going on in the South China Sea, where Filipino boats will sometimes be sprayed with water by the Chinese Coast Guard. So there's already a little bit of friction between the two nations, but China...
This mission will be codenamed Operation Snake Eater. This is a Cold War fought with information and espionage. Snake, show your patriotism.
How's the audio? How's the audio? Let's see.
The only guarantee you have as a human being is that you are going to die. If you're lucky, you get to choose how to spend those last moments.
It ain't fair! No!
Every moment matters.
I couldn't save him again!
Especially at the end.
The Long Walk. Rated R.
First, maybe I can
wanted to
this up
offer a
just
lending
little bit.
hand to the Philippines, whereas Western nations were
right there.
taking their sweet time in delivering vaccines to the country. America saw this as a major
Not too loud.
problem. The American State Department looked at that and thought, we can't have people in the Philippines feeling like China is there to protect them. So they worked tirelessly behind the scenes to create anti-vaccine campaigns in the Philippines to undermine the public opinion on vaccination campaigns in general, and specifically Sinovac. They did in the Philippines what Americans do here to our own.
Maybe a little too loud.
The Pentagon ran a secret anti-vax campaign to undermine China during the pandemic. The U.S. military launched a clandestine program amid the COVID crisis to discredit China's Sinovac inoculation. Payback for Beijing's efforts to blame
that's
Washington
fine.
for the pandemic. One target, the Filipino public. Health experts say the gambit was indefensible and put innocent lives at risk. Anywhere where you saw countries that deal with China, where there is like a tremendous number of anti-vaxxer fears, who knows if the State Department had a hand in that? We know for a fact that they did in the Philippines. And that was certainly almost a decade after the CIA openly came out and were like, my bad about the Osama bin Laden, Pakistan situation. Yeah. Hashtag China on virus. This post, identified by Reuters, matched the messaging timeframe and design of the U.S. military's anti-vax propaganda campaign in the Philippines, former and current military officials say. Social media platform X also identified the account as fake and removed it. COVID came from China, and the vaccine also came from China. Don't trust China. One typical tweet from July 2020 read in Tagalog. The words were next to a photo of a syringe beside a Chinese flag and soaring chart of infections. Another post read from China, PPE, face mask, vaccine, fake. But the coronavirus is real. The U.S. military's anti-vax efforts began in the spring of 2020 and expanded beyond Southeast Asia before it was terminated in mid-2021, Reuters determined. So it was expanded beyond Southeast Asia. He doesn't understand a simple gambit. Yeah, that's true. It was a gambit, dude. It wasn't a tactical misinformation campaign. You're right, Chatter. Oh, man. I didn't realize it was a simple gambit. Oh, man. Masterful gambit, America.
Recruiting healthcare workers. It's in situations like these that we see the impact information has on our perception and beliefs. The health of the Pakistani population was undermined by disinformation that caused disbelief in the healthcare system. It's crucial to get an objective view on matters. For example, news outlets might frame stories through a different lens based on their political leanings and interests. Fortunately, today's sponsor, Ground News, addresses this issue by enabling us to see a broader, unbiased perspective by gathering information from a multitude of sources. For example, it has been reported that Mexico warned they would impose their own tariffs in retaliation if Trump were to impose a 25% tariff on Mexican goods. 348 sources reported on this, primarily from the center, with less coverage from right and left-leaning outlets. This creates what Ground News calls a potential blind spot in critical analysis for people who typically consume right and left-leaning sources. The differences in
I do find it funny that many of my friends who do wonderful YouTube videos, and this guy I don't know, but he very clearly is like a smart guy, have Ground News as their as like a major advertiser. And Ground News is still, at the end of the day, using a lot of faulty methodology to figure out what their bias chart is, including but not limited to, as far as I understand, the Koch brother funded Poynter Institute. Like media bias ranking structures are entirely dominated by far right billionaires that have set up these like supposedly apolitical apolitical institutions that almost always exhibit a right-wing bias.
Coverage between political leanings are clear. For example, a right-leaning source calls Trump's tariff proposition a threat, while a left-leaning source describes the situation in a more intense way. Ground News doesn't tell you what to think. They gather the world's news to help you come to your own independent conclusions. One of my favorite features is their blind spot feed, which shows you stories underreported by one side of the political spectrum, so I can see stories I normally wouldn't have. I really think Ground News' mission aligns with what I aim to do here on my channel, so go to ground.news.
I don't think these guys know that, by the way. And also I still don't have an issue with Ground News. I don't really care.
News/TPE to stay informed with context you can't find anywhere else. Or scan my QR code for 50% off the same top-tier Vantage plan I use for unlimited access to all their features. Thanks again to Ground News for sponsoring this video. Operation Sea Spray. In 1950, the Navy wanted to test the vulnerability of a city like San Francisco to a biological weapons attack in a project called Operation Sea Spray. To do so, they released two types of bacteria, Serratia marcescens and Bacillus globigii, into San Francisco Bay. The operation happened between September 20th and 27th, and the bacteria were released from a ship off the coast of San Francisco. It's said that they did this because they thought they would have been harmless to humans, but on October 11th, 11 residents checked into Stanford Hospital in San Francisco with very rare, serious urinary tract infections. 10 of them recovered, but one man, who had had recent prostate surgery, died 3 weeks later from a heart valve infection. His relatives later tried to sue the government, but they lost because the bacteria used in the test was unproven to be responsible for his death. The urinary tract outbreak was so unusual that the Stanford doctors wrote it up for a medical journal. None of the other hospitals in the city reported similar spikes in cases, and all 11 victims had urinary tract infections following medical procedures, suggesting that the source of their infections was inside the hospital. Cases of pneumonia in San Francisco also increased after Serratia marcescens was released, even though a causal relationship has not been established. Overall, the Army determined that San Francisco had received enough of—
Dude, it's so crazy that, like, the American government is so out of pocket. This is something I try to explain to people all the time. Like, they don't even care about Americans, man. Like, what is the expectation that they would ever care about, like, Palestinians or Pakistani people or the Filipino population? They don't even care about Americans. These same institutions are supposed to, you know, protect all Americans from enemies, both domestic and foreign. Meanwhile, we need protection from the military.
Of a dose for nearly all of the city's 800,000 residents to inhale at least 5,000 of the particles, which is within the range of infectivity for anthrax. Project Sunshine. Project Sunshine was a series of research studies done by the U.S. government that began in 1953 to see the impact of radioactive fallout on the world's population, which remained secret until 3 years later, in 1956. They wanted to see the body's reaction to radioactive isotope strontium-90, which represented the most serious threat to human health from nuclear fallout, especially on kids, since their—
I think this was done
Fuck it, I don't want to play this anymore.
in my neighborhood VA. When I lived in Brentwood, there were certain parts that the VA owned. There was a dog park in Brentwood where there were certain parts that the VA, like certain land that the military owned, that was plotted out for the VA, and you were just like not allowed to. The one next to the Getty is a massive facility, exactly. And I think that that's where they did this Project Sunshine, if I'm not mistaken.
Young developing bone tissues have the highest propensity to accumulate strontium-90, and thus they have the highest susceptibility to radiation damage. Of course, this type of experiment wasn't that feasible, since doing it on alive humans would be an ethical monstrosity, and there weren't many familiars that would like to donate their deceased loved ones to be experimented on like this. Somehow, though, 1,500 sample cadavers, mostly babies and young children, appeared out of nowhere. That's because they were taken from countries ranging from Australia to Europe, often without their parents' consent or knowledge. A British mother had even said that her stillborn baby's legs were removed by British doctors, and to prevent her from finding out what had happened, she was not allowed to dress the baby for the funeral. The Dalai Lama worked
There's
for the
another
CIA.
one that's
During the
not-
Cold War, it seemed like China and its
This guy's awesome. Mr. Tongue Suck. The Dalai Lama did work for the CIA. It's kind of funny because the CIA just gave up on Tibet. That's why he's saying worked for the CIA. They did. They literally had a program. They spent a bunch of money on it. And then I've never
See
actually
where we are. So
I've never actually looked into it, but I wonder why they just straight up gave up on it. They're like, whatever. Like they shelved the destabilizing like the destabilization initiatives that they wanted to implement in Tibet. There was like a big free Tibet movement. Some of it is also obviously born out of people and their frustrations, specifically as it pertains to Dalai Lama. Oh yeah, I think they did do that when Nixon normalized relations. You're right. But in a lot of instances they don't actually do that. Like they don't actually give up on stuff like that far long after. I mean, it's like Nixon normalizing relations also still Nixon's normalization agreements also still came with what's the term? I mean, the normal term is lying, but there is another there's another term that they used to use: strategic ambiguity. Across China's west, the Communist Party is placing children in boarding schools to assimilate a generation of Tibetans into the national mainstream and mold them into loyal citizens. Country that bombs schools with 4,000-pound bunker busters calls out country that provides boarding schools for its kids. Hundreds of thousands of Tibetan children are being separated. I mean, you'll see more of this sort of stuff in the upcoming administration, especially as we gear up. We redirect all of our efforts into all the evil that China is doing. So there'll be, I think what America is going to do.
I forget what the
in
base
the
for them
next decade,
can do.
as far as like anti-Chinese sentiment,
Okay, that's
is
actually
going to
not
make anything that we've seen so far look silly. They openly allotted almost $2 billion to specifically this, some of which is these kinds of initiatives. Like they have a lot of money invested in instilling anti-Chinese sentiment.
its Communist Party wanted to increase their influence on Tibet, which worried the United States.
Tibet.
Consequently, the CIA created what was called the CIA Tibetan Program, where they trained and strengthened various isolated Tibetan resistance groups, which eventually led to the creation of a paramilitary force of 2,000 men. They also sent military supplies in stealthy ways to not attract China's attention, and they spread pro-Tibetan propaganda by showing the human rights abuses in Tibet under Chinese rule. The plan reached $1.7 million of annual funding, and the funny thing is that the Dalai Lama himself received an annual salary of $180,000 from the late 1950s to the mid-1970s, even though he stated that he used most of the funds received from the CIA to finance the activities of the Tibetan government in exile. His brother, Gyalo Thondup, was also considered a CIA's top asset. The program ended after
let's
President
just,
Nixon visited China to establish closer relations in 1972, but the Dalai Lama and his brother thought that this demonstrated that the U.S. didn't care about genuinely helping the Tibetan people, but that
Let's
they
just
were
start with the
following their own
newest
interests
king,
in the Cold War.
because
The U.S. president's wife became the real
I just
president.
don't feel like doing
Edith Wilson was the wife of President
Let me turn
Woodrow
this down
Wilson
again.
when, in October 1919, he suffered a stroke that heavily incapacitated him. They hid the true extent of the president's illness and disability from the American public, and although she was never officially elected president of the United States, she played a significant role in managing the country after her husband's condition, and some scholars even call her the secret president or the first woman president. She took control of many of the day-to-day functions of the executive branch, deciding which communications, issues, and matters of state were important enough to bring to the bedridden president's attention. For this reason, she required that all members of the cabinet send urgent matters, memoranda, correspondence, questions, and requests to her. In this way, she became the sole link of communication between the president and his cabinet. Even though she claimed that she didn't take any decisions herself, her role as a potential gatekeeper of info gave her lots of power and influence, and some suggest that she even successfully pushed for the removal of
Another example that comes to mind is also Ronald Reagan and Jill Biden with Joseph Robinette Brandon.
You know your business better than anyone, right? So why not build an app to run it with Base 44? This finance app solves your business headaches, tracking invoices, managing clients, keeping payments in check, all in one place. Go to Base 44 and write your prompt, what your app should do, how it should look, and the problems it should solve. They starts generating your app right in front of you. Invoice list, client profiles, payment tracking. It's like watching a team of developers, designers, and a business coach bring your idea to life. Now it's
So this looks interesting. Where's our base?
I'll add scan receipts, digitize them, and add to
When a card is
expenses.
placed on
Now
an
I can snap
empty
a photo
plot,
and it's
camps
logged
adjacent to
instantly.
plot
No
gain
more
2.
manual expense entry.
Very
Finally,
interesting.
let's add an expenses prediction dashboard. that
Very
forecasts
interesting. So this
monthly
is
and
a
yearly costs.
very different
Now you've gotten that tailored to your
character.
Secretary of State Robert Lansing, CIA's cat spies. In the 1960s, Operation Acoustic Kitty was launched, which aimed to use cats as spies. This project's estimated cost, according to former CIA officer Victor Marchetti,
This my base?
was around $20 million.
Base and range troops shoots banners that add warlock warlord stats to target allies.
The first mission of a cat spy was to eavesdrop on 2 men in a park near the Soviet embassy in Washington, D.C. The cat was released nearby, but was almost immediately
Interesting.
hit by a taxi. However, Robert Wallace, a former director of the CIA's Office of Technical Service, disputed this version in 2013. He said the project was abandoned due to the difficulty in training the cat. This failure, accompanied by other failed tests, caused the project to get shut down in 1966.
Respect. I'm back in. I'm back in. Impossible to tame. Impossible to train. Cat said, I ain't no fed.
USA's gay bomb. The idea of a gay bomb, a non-lethal chemical weapon designed to make enemy soldiers attracted to each other, was considered by the U.S. Air Force. This hypothetical weapon, mentioned in a 1994 Department of Defense document, aimed to disperse sexual pheromones among enemy forces to generate mutual attraction, leading to mass confusion and panic. Along with the gay bomb, other ideas were discussed, such as remotely engineering body odors using compounds found in bad breath and excessive sweating, with the goal of making the enemy so smelly that they could be easily detected by their opponents. However, there is no evidence that these weapons were used or that it's possible to create such a thing. If you want to discuss this video or suggest an idea for the next one, join my Discord. Link in the description.
I wanted to mention that the boarding schools in Tibet are genuinely a bit concerning. Propaganda aside, it's pretty classic internal colonial policy to take indigenous minority away from families into regimented boarding schools. Yeah, no, I know. I'm unfamiliar with what
Is that all the dragon does? It just goes by one time?
And I doubt that this is as cheery as the Chinese government
Attacks
suggests it is.
slow the enemy
But I also doubt
movement
it's as violent and as awful as the American news
and attack
reports on it
speed
as
by
well.
20.
I'm more inclined to believe that this is still some semblance of re-education, but only time will tell. Like, as far as people say, they
Increase the
re-educated
damage
Muslim men and
range.
indoctrinated with official Chinese values of loyalty and patriotism. That's just
Get
public
3
school,
copies
for
of the next
record.
card you throw into the
That
pit.
is literally public school in general. That is how
Not
it
bad.
works.
I'll
That's
do
what
that.
Common Core curriculum looks like. I think one of the major impacts for Tibet, like one of the major hurdles for Tibet, is that Chinese development has been sparse in comparison to other places. I think that if they were to do major development projects, which there are some, as far as I understand, but if they were to do major development projects, like that would be infinitely more impactful in terms of making people happy with Chinese governance. The western parts of China are very sparsely populated and super spread out, so it makes more sense to build boarding schools rather than have a lot of small schools everywhere. It's really not sinister in my opinion. Hassan, why is it easier to adopt other countries' kids than China? What? I don't know. Our reporting shows that far from home, the children are at risk of abuse or being stripped of their Tibetan identity and bonds with family. Across China's west, the party is placing children in boarding schools in a drive to assimilate a generation of Tibetans into the national mainstream and mold them into citizens loyal to the Communist Party. Tibetan rights activists as well as experts working with the United Nations have said that the party is systematically separating Tibetan children from their families to erase Tibetan identity and to deepen China's control of a people who historically resisted Beijing's rule.
Oh, damn.
China doesn't really invest in Tibet as opposed to Xinjiang because they can't really make trade routes to South Asia over the Himalayas, but Xinjiang is getting a lot of bread because that's how China can link up with Central Asia and consequently the Russian and European markets. Yeah. But also, I think part of the reason why is I don't think that there is as large of a Tibetan resistance movement against or a Tibet separatist movement in Tibet as opposed to the Xinjiang separatist movement, which caused China to take action that was completely unacceptable, as I've detailed time and time again. I mean, this doesn't necessarily mean that the situation in Tibet is perfect or great. As far as I understand, it's the classic process of it's not dissimilar to one of the major issues that the USSR fell into. One of the major traps that the USSR fell into with Russification, in spite of the Sino-Soviet split and a very different approach that focuses on learning from the lessons or the failures of the USSR in terms of the
Why is this just
current
one strike?
Chinese communist
Oh.
governance. They still do.
Oh. Interesting.
You know, they still do genuine initiatives to create as much as a monoculture as possible. Oh, that makes sense. Central Committee says China is building the biggest hydroelectric dam in history in Tibet. They just announced it last week. That's why this article is coming out. It will provide clean energy for 330 million homes per year. Oh. Okay, that makes sense. It's larger than 3 gorges. It's going to be Gorgina.
Hi, I'm Jeff. I'm a former workers' compensation judge, and I used to represent insurance companies. Now I represent you.
Every night when we go to sleep, where do we go and what really happens? Some people may see horrible nightmares, beautiful dreams, or the feeling of being stuck in their own skin, trapped by sleep paralysis. This is what we will be covering in today's video, sleep and dreams, as you might have guessed.
I don't know. This one's kind of strange. Is this technically a tower?
Things and common things such as a casual dream, which you have almost every night, and towards the bottom, it will cover unknown and more disturbing things, such as being trapped in your own mind. But anyways, I'm excited to get into it. So let's kick it off with the sleep and
I would
dream
say.
And actually, before we get into the video, consider subscribing to the channel. We are almost to 100,000 subscribers, and
Okay.
it'd be really awesome if you
So this is a tower?
and help us reach that goal. It's free to subscribe, and you can always change your mind. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into the video. Tier 1. Casual dreaming. Casual dreaming refers to the act of engaging in daydreaming or fantasizing during waking hours. Unlike the vivid and often uncontrollable nature of dreams during sleep, casual dreaming involves the intentional or spontaneous imagination.
This dragon kind of sucks unless you continue to just destroy your stuff, which I think I'll try.
Something like that, and your mind just wanders, and you can find yourself lost in thoughts, scenarios, or possibilities. Casual dreaming can be a creative and enjoyable activity, allowing your mind to wander into realms of different imagination and fantasy. It can be a source of inspiration, problem solving, or simply a way to escape momentarily from the demands of reality. People often engage in casual dreaming during moments of relaxation, boredom, or when seeking a mental break from routine tasks. This type of dreaming can take various forms, such as envisioning future goals, imagining different outcomes to situations, or just creating entirely fictional scenarios in your mind. It's a natural and common aspect of human cognition, and it can contribute to cognitive flexibility and creativity. Sleepwalking. Sleepwalking is a sleep disorder characterized by walking or performing other complex behaviors while still being in a state of partial awakeness during non-REM sleep. It is more common in children than in adults, but can still occur at any age. People who sleepwalk may engage in various different activities, such as walking around the house, opening and closing doors, rearranging furniture, or even leaving the house. Despite appearing awake, sleepwalkers are not conscious of their actions at all. Episodes usually occur during the first half of the night during deep sleep stages, lasting for a few minutes to half an hour or more. Sleepwalkers typically have little to no memory of the event,
Whoa.
and if awakened during an episode,
Okay, so if you have multiple dragons, it kind of makes it a little bit better.
Sleepwalking can be triggered by factors such as sleep deprivation, fever, certain different medications, stress, and alcohol consumption. Genetics may also play a role in predisposing someone to sleepwalking. In many cases, sleepwalking doesn't require specific treatment, especially when episodes are infrequent, not causing significant distress or any sort of harm. However,
Oh, the placement does a big thing as well. I kind of want to restart, but I mean, we're on like peasant mode. I think it's fine to keep going.
Sleepwalking can actually pose some safety risks to you, as
Okay, let's get
individuals
this
may
one.
be unaware of potential dangers in their
Oh, I
environment.
forgot about that.
Precautions such as securing doors and windows and removing obstacles from the sleepwalker's
Oh.
path may be necessary. In some cases, a sleep study may be conducted to monitor brain activity, eye movement, and other psychological parameters during sleep to help diagnose this and understand the nature of your specific sleepwalking episodes. It's important to note that sleepwalking can sometimes be a symptom of an underlying sleep disorder or other more serious medical condition.
Listen, paying $14.99 a month for a streaming app and $9.99
Okay, the
a month
dragons
for a
are pretty
music app,
strong, not
and
gonna lie.
$12.99 for a fitness app and more money for a bunch of other apps, that really adds up.
We're just gonna
So why
destroy
not
this,
get
so.
YouTube Premium for just
But overall, sleepwalking is just
Let's place it so that we
running
can
around
just
sleep,
destroy it.
like I just described in really deep detail. NREM sleep, or just REM sleep, I don't know. But non-REM sleep is a vital component of the sleep cycle. Completing the REM rapid eye movement stage of sleep in this sleep phases consists of 3 distinct stages, N1, N2, and N3. N1, the initial stage, marks the transition from wakefulness to sleep, just by, going straight to sleep right as you fall asleep, characterized by light sleep and occasional hypnic jerks. N2 follows, featuring sleep spindles and K complexes on EEG recordings, contributing to a deeper but still relatively light sleep. N3, the final stage of your sleep, and it is the deepest part of the NREM sleep, known as the slow wave sleep. During N3, vital psychological functions slow down, and growth hormone is released
That's a good move.
to, grow or heal during your sleep, supporting physical restoration and growth. The sleep cycle progresses through these NREM stages before transitioning to just REM sleep, and this cycle repeats throughout the night. Each sleep cycle, lasting approximately 90 to 110 minutes, contributes to the overall quality of sleep. NREM sleep is essential for various psychological processes, including memory consolidation, immune function, and overall well-being. So sleep is just obviously important, and it's important to get through all of these stages of sleep at least once, most of all, twice. Melatonin supplements, readily available over the counter, are commonly used to regulate sleep patterns and put you to sleep. The hormone melatonin, naturally produced by the
Gain a unit whenever a different adjacent card gains one.
prepare for sleep as darkness falls. Individuals with sleep disorders, those adjusting to new sleep schedules due to shift work or experiencing jet
Whoa.
lag, may turn to melatonin supplements for assistance to fall
You could choose
asleep.
3?
Dosage and timing are crucial considerations when using melatonin supplements. Starting with a low dose, about 30 minutes to an hour before
Yeah, fuck
bedtime,
it.
is generally recommended. Higher doses may not necessarily enhance their effectiveness and could lead to side effects. Melatonin efficiently varies among individuals, and its use should be guided by a healthcare professional, especially when underlying health conditions or concerns are present. But overall, melatonin supplements are just to help you go to sleep. Regular wake cycle. Maintaining a regular wake cycle, also known as a consistent sleep-wake schedule or circadian rhythm, is essential for overall health and well-being. A regular wake cycle involves going to bed and waking up at the same time each day, even on the weekends. And this is the body's internal clock, or the circadian rhythm, which regulates the sleep-wake cycle. Consistency in sleep and wake times helps synchronize this internal clock, promoting better sleep quality
Honestly.
and overall health. Tier 2, and I'm not sure why this one wasn't on the first tier, but it's whatever. But REM sleep, or rapid eye movement, or just REM, like I said, REM sleep, is a crucial stage in the sleep cycle, characterized by distinct psychological and neurological features. It is one of the 4 stages of sleep, alternating with the 3 stages of non-REM sleep throughout the night. During REM sleep, the brain becomes highly active, resembling
If I can get another
the
dragon,
activity
put it back
observed
here, that'd be
during
good.
wakefulness. So your mind is as active as it is during the day when you're sleeping during this REM sleep. This heightened neural activity is accompanied by vivid and immersive dreaming experiences. Despite the increased brain activity, REM sleep is also associated with temporary muscle paralysis, known as atonia. which prevents individuals from physically acting out their dreams so you wouldn't get hurt. It's kind of like the brain's way of preventing you from hurting yourself while you're sleeping. REM sleep typically occurs in cycles, roughly every 90 to 110 minutes, with the duration of each REM period extending as the night progresses. These cycles are integral to the overall sleep architecture and contribute to the restoration and maintenance of various psychological functions. Psychological changes during REM sleep include increased heart rate, irregular breathing, and fluctuations in blood pressure. So it's almost as you're, acting this out inside of your dream, and it kind of really makes a toll on your health in some sort of way. It's kind of weird. These changes, along with the vivid dreams, are believed to play a role
The dragons are pretty
in
fun,
processing
now that I
memory
figured them out.
consolidation. REM sleep is particularly associated with the consolidation of procedural and emotional memories, contributing to the learning and the integration of experiences. So these ways of dreams and your dreams are kind of a way of your brain remembering stuff. So kind of weird. In this sleep cycle, REM sleep is preceded by non-REM sleep stages.
Oh,
which
now we
talked
can pick
about
3.
earlier, and the transition between these stages in a dynamic process. Adequate and balanced REM sleep is essential for overall sleep quality, emotional well-being, and cognitive function and cognitive health. Lucid dreaming. Lucid dreaming is a unique state of consciousness where the dreamer becomes aware that they are in a dream. This heightened self-awareness allows individuals to have varying degrees of control over their dream environment and their narrative. A key feature that distinguishes lucid dreaming from just regular dreaming is the vividness and realism of sensory experiences in a lucid dream can be striking, with sights, sounds, and sensations feeling as authentic as those in waking life. Lucid dreams can occur spontaneously, but some people actively practice techniques to induce and enhance this state, allowing them to promote this in their mind and get this over and over again almost every night. These techniques often involve reality checks, keeping dream journals to increase dream recall, and engaging in mental exercises aimed at promoting self-awareness both during waking hours and within the dream state. Some individuals harness the potential of lucid dreaming for creative exploration, problem solving, and personal pleasure. Research suggests that lucid dreaming is associated with increased activity in specific areas of the brain, including the prefrontal cortex, which is linked to decision-making and self-awareness. While lucid dreaming is a natural phenomenon that many people experience at least once in their life, the scientific understanding of its underlying mechanisms and potential applications is still evolving and still being studied. Nightmares. Nightmares, vivid and distressing dreams that evoke intense negative emotions or are just, terrifying. These unsettling dreams often involve threatening or terrifying scenarios, such as the feeling of being chased, falling, or experiencing some sort of harm. While nightmares are a normal occurrence in the brain, recurrent or severe instances can significantly impact sleep quality.
Yeah, this is a weird match. I don't really understand
Various factors
these cards yet.
the occurrence of nightmares, including stress, anxiety, trauma, medications, sleep deprivation, and certain medical conditions. Individuals with PTSD are particularly prone to experiencing recurrent nightmares. Nightmares may disrupt normal sleep patterns, leading to frequent awakening during the night and creating the reluctance to sleep. Nightmares should be distinguished from night terrors, a separate sleep disorder characterized by sudden, intense fear and temporary inability to fully awaken.
The long walk is the answer. To inspire everyday people. Nasura, we will be #1 in the world again! All for one!
With night terrors being more common in children, treatment for nightmares often involves addressing the underlying causes. Trauma-focused therapy, sleep hygiene practices, stress reduction techniques, and in some cases, medications may all be recommended to help get rid of nightmares.
Waste.
Sleep deprivation. Sleep deprivation, the condition where an individual...
Actually, I should have fucking used that on the other thing.
Sleep can arise from various different factors, such
That's
as
fine.
lifestyle choices, demanding work schedules,
Okay.
shift work, Sleep disorders, medical conditions, and stress are all common contributors. The impact of sleep deprivation extends beyond mere tiredness, profoundly affecting cognitive function.
Okay, there we go. We get
memory,
something.
Concentration, decision making, and reaction time may all be impaired, leading to diminished overall mental acuity. Mood disturbances, including irritability and mood swings, often accompany this sleep deprivation. The repercussions of insufficient sleep aren't limited to cognitive aspects. It significantly influences physical health. Chronic sleep deprivation is also associated with an elevated risk of obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, and a compromised immune system. Moreover, the increased risk of accidents and injuries underscores the importance of addressing sleep deficits.
These are all pretty good. Sword gives +1 or +1 extra damage. I don't understand the or here. And like in the cards themselves. Swords give +1 or oh, +1%. Okay.
Circles underneath the eyes, puffy eyes, and a fatigued appearance are common manifestations. Additionally,
Let's do it this way.
premature aging may also be accelerated. So if you don't get sufficient sleep, you will actually start to age quicker. In extreme cases, individuals experiencing chronic sleep deprivation may enter microsleeps. Brief
So it looks like the progress guy kind of works well with this king. And I guess also this one because of the offering. But we're going to have to figure it out. So let's see.
Sleeping while driving isn't the best scenario. And also, the performance impairment resulting from sleep deprivation is particularly concerning in safety-sensitive industries like healthcare and transportation. Establishing good sleep hygiene practices, addressing underlying sleep disorders, and adopting a consistent sleep schedule are crucial steps in mitigating the adverse effects of any sort of sleep deprivation. Jet lag. Jet lag is a temporary sleep disorder that arises when an individual's internal body clock becomes misaligned with the time zone of their current location due to rapid long-distance air travels across multiple time zones. Symptoms include fatigue, insomnia, irritability, and digestive issues, all just kind of related to being sleepy. The severity and duration of jet lag depend on factors such as the number of time zones crossed, the direction of travel, individual resilience, and pre-existing sleep patterns. Prevention and management strategies involve gradually adjusting sleep and meal times before travel, staying hydrated, exposing oneself to natural light, and adopting the local schedule quickly upon arrival. Traveling eastward often results in more pronounced jet lag than westward travel due to the body finding it easier to delay its internal clock than to advance it. Long-haul flights are typically more associated with jet lag than short-haul flights that don't cross as many time zones. Pretty obvious, though. Individual variability plays a role in susceptibility to jet lag, with factors such as age, overall health, and circadian preferences influencing how quickly someone adjusts to another time zone and how tired they will be and how tired they are when the jet lag happens. Afterlife dreams. Afterlife dreams, often referred to as death-related dreams or dreams of deceased loved ones, are experiences where individuals dream about people who have passed away recently. These dreams will frequently involve vivid and emotionally charged interactions with the deceased person or persons, such as conversations, receiving messages, or feeling a strong presence of the deceased loved one or deceased person. The themes and content of afterlife dreams can vary widely among all individuals.
We just gotta play stuff there.
Peaceful encounters to more challenging or distressing experiences. The interpretation of
I'll
afterlife
place
dreams
that
is
one
often
there.
shaped by personal beliefs, cultural influences, and all religious backgrounds, which can all play a role in how you perceive it in your dreams and how you see the loved one. In some cultures, these dreams are considered a form of communication, of a means of spirit to convey messages from beyond. For many individuals, afterlife dreams are viewed as meaningful or symbolic experiences, providing a sense of comfort, closure, or reassurance. Psychologically, afterlife dreams are often seen as a natural response to
I kind of miss that
grief,
old AI look
deceased
where you can
loved
tell
one,
it's just a bunch of lines.
process, allowing individuals to process emotions, their memories, and unresolved feelings associated with the loss. From a psychological standpoint, these dreams may serve as a way for the mind to navigate the complex emotions tied to the departure of a loved one. Afterlife dreams can also be seen through the lens of maintaining a continuing bond with the deceased. Some individuals find that these dreams allow for a sense of ongoing connection and relationship, contributing to a feeling of ongoing presence even after death. Ultimately, the interpretation of afterlife dreams is highly personal and hard to just widely do. While some may find solace and meaning in these dreams, others may view them as a random occurrence with no particular significance. Approaching all of these experiences with sensitivity and recognizing the diverse ways individuals interpret and respond to afterlife dreams is crucial, considering the unique and personal nature of the grieving process. Narcolepsy. Narcolepsy is a chronic neurological disorder that has symptoms affecting sleep and your wakefulness. One hallmark of narcolepsy is excessive daytime sleepiness, where individuals experience persistent and overwhelming drowsiness during waking hours or just during the day, irrespective of nighttime sleep duration. So no matter how much you sleep, you'll still be tired. This can significantly impact daily activities and overall functioning and well-being. A defining feature of narcolepsy is the occurrence of sleep attacks, abrupt and uncontrollable episodes of just falling asleep. These episodes, lasting from a few seconds to a few minutes, can happen during routine activities and may pose relatively serious safety risks. Cataplexy, another characteristic symptom, involves sudden muscle weakness or paralysis triggered by strong emotions. Sleep paralysis, a temporary inability to move or speak during the transition between wakefulness and sleep, and vivid hallucinations add up to the complex clinical picture of such narcolepsy. Disturbances in nighttime sleep are common among individuals with narcolepsy. Despite experiencing EDS, maintaining restorative sleep can be very challenging for the person with narcolepsy, with frequent awakening during the night. The exact cause of narcolepsy is not fully understood at all, but is associated with a deficiency of hypocrine, a neurotransmitter linked to wakefulness. The deficiency is believed to result from the autoimmune process targeting the cells producing hypocrine. Management of narcolepsy involves a multifaceted approach. Medications as such, including stimulants to address EDS and antidepressants or other drugs to manage cataplexy and other symptoms along with narcolepsy, are commonly prescribed. Lifestyle adjustments as well, such as adhering to a regular sleep schedule and incorporating short naps, are also recommended to enhance your overall well-being. Sleep apnea. Sleep apnea, a prevalent
All
sleep
new
disorder,
troops and towers
manifests
placed
through
on empty
repeated
plots start with
interruptions in
double
breathing during
stats.
sleep. The two main types are obstructive sleep apnea, or OSA, and central sleep apnea, or CSA. OSA occurs when throat muscles excessively relax, causing a partial or complete blockage of the upper airway, often accompanied by loud snoring. CSA, less common, results from a failure of the brain to signal the muscles responsible for breathing. So you really just stop breathing when you're sleeping, which obviously is a pretty big problem. Both types lead to disruptions in sleep, affecting overall health and your well-being. Common indicators of sleep apnea include loud snoring, frequent awakening throughout the night, and daytime symptoms such as excessive
I'm just waiting for the
sleep,
dragons to come out. I
persistent
really
fatigue,
like
and
those.
impaired concentration. If left untreated, sleep apnea can contribute to various health issues including hypertension, cardiovascular disease, and diabetes. Treatment options for sleep apnea depend on the type and the severity. Lifestyle modifications such as weight loss and positional therapy may be all recommended. Falling in void dreams. Dreams of falling into an abyss or a void
I hate
are
that
common
shit.
and intriguing phenomenon with potential symbolic meanings. Psychologically, falling dreams are often interpreted as reflections of a sense of loss of control, anxiety, or insecurity in your life. The void in these dreams may represent the unknown or the aspects of life that feel overwhelming or uncertain. The emotional impact of falling dreams is
Adds
notable,
10
often eliciting
HP
fear,
or
anxiety,
10
and a feeling
HP,
of powerlessness
10%
that can
HP
linger
to target,
upon
whichever is
awakening.
higher.
These dreams may be connected to various stressors or challenges in the dreamer's life or your life, for example, reflecting fears of failure, being overwhelmed, or uncertainties about the future. The personalized nature of dream symbolism emphasizes the importance of considering the dreamer unique experiences and emotions. Falling dreams can serve as a psychological mirror, reflecting and processing the dream's current state of mind, but for some individuals, falling dreams may just offer a sense of lucidity or awareness during the dream, and some may have some sort of meaning in your real life, or, it could just be a dream that you're falling. Irregular wake cycle. An irregular wake cycle, characterized by disrupted or inconsistent patterns of waking and sleeping, can all result from various factors with implications for overall well-being. Shift work is a common contributor, as individuals engaged in irregular work hours may struggle to establish a stable sleep routine, challenging their body's natural circadian rhythm. Social jet lag arising from irregular social activities or commitments can similarly lead to a misalignment between internal and the external time, affecting your sleep consistency. The pervasive use of electronic devices, particularly before bedtime, presents another challenge to your regular wake cycle. Exposure to screens suppresses melatonin production, hindering the body's ability to transition into restful sleep. So, for example, if you're, just watching a video or just scrolling through TikTok or something like that before bed, you won't actually get as much restful sleep as if you were to just leave your phone, wait an hour, and then go to bed. Because your body just can't, even though you do fall asleep, you're not going to sleep fully restful. Poor sleep hygiene practices are another thing, including irregular bedtimes and inconsistent sleep routines, all contribute to the disruption of sleep-wake patterns. Stress and anxiety, prevalent in modern lifestyles, can significantly impact sleep once again, leading to irregular wake cycles. But overall, wake cycles are very important to have a consistent one, and irregular ones can make you feel, tired and other things like that.
Let's make peace with them.
Insomnia, a common sleep disorder, is marked by persistent difficulties in just, falling asleep, staying asleep, or achieving restorative sleep despite having the opportunity to do so. So no matter what, put with a perfect dark room in a comfy bed, you won't be able to fall asleep because of insomnia. It encompasses both primary insomnia, not directly linked to other health conditions, and secondary insomnia, which is associated with factors like medical issues, medications, or psychological disorders.
That was a bad placement,
Symptoms
honestly.
of insomnia include trouble initiating sleep, frequent awakenings during the night, early morning awakenings, and waking up feeling unrefreshed. The condition is characterized by acute, often triggered by specific sensors, and chronic, lasting for 3 months or more and requiring more comprehensive management. Various factors all contribute to insomnia, including stress, anxiety, depression, disruptions in the sleep environment, changes in your work schedules, and medical conditions. The impact extends beyond just the night, affecting your daytime functioning with symptoms like fatigue, difficulty concentrating, and mood disturbances. All of the symptoms that go along with, just being tired. Long-term insomnia can contribute to increased risk of cardiovascular issues, obesity, and mental health disorders. Treatment approaches for insomnia encompass behavioral strategies and, in some cases, medications. Cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia is a well-established method addressing behavioral and cognitive factors. Medications, though available, are generally recommended for short-term use due to the potential side effects and dependency concerns. Tier 3. Sleep.
Do not pay your next car insurance bill. Repeat, do not pay your bill yet.
So I found this website and look at the difference.
$271 a month. I thought that this was the best that they could do. Don't even look anywhere else. This is the best price, right? Wrong. Now look at my new price. $50 a month for 2 cars. I'm even covered if they steal my cars, and I didn't have to deal with any annoying insurance agents. So many insurance companies do this, you guys.
Whoa,
they push our rates
crazy.
up and make us pay even more. So if you want to try this website, I put the link.
Talking, or soliloquy, is a common sleep disorder characterized by verbal utterances during sleep, often ranging from, simple sounds to coherent sentences just being spoken at random during the night. It can occur during any stage of sleep, but is typically associated with lighter non-REM sleep stages. The content of sleep talking varies widely and may just include random words, phrases, or even complete sentences. The causes of sleep talking are not fully understood, but are believed to be related to increased brain activity during the transition between sleep stages. While sleep talking is generally harmless and doesn't require any sort of specific treatment, its occurrence may be influenced by factors such as stress, fever, sleep deprivation, or medications. Addressing underlying causes such as managing stress or improving sleep hygiene may help reduce the frequency of sleep talking. But sleep talking isn't really a big deal anyways, so you shouldn't be worried if you sleep talk or somebody knows.
What?
sleep
Why does
talk.
that fail,
It's just
though?
kind of a weird thing that happens when you're sleeping.
All right. Yeah.
And this is kind of just a different word for sleepwalking. And the definition for it is a person with parasomnias may seem to be alert, walking, or talking, or eating, or doing other such activities, but without awareness because the brain is only partially awake. So it's just kind of a more almost intense
Moves target to
version
an
of
empty adjacent
sleepwalking,
plot.
because you can also
Oh,
talk and eat,
adjacent
but you're
plot.
still unconscious. So kind of weird. Dreams about Minecraft. Yeah, I don't really know how to cover this one because there's nothing really online or anywhere saying anything specific about dreams about Minecraft, but basically people have been heard to have had dreams about Minecraft or in Minecraft because sometimes when you play a video game so much, your brain will just kind of pick up on that during the nighttime and you'll just dream it like you're kind of living in it and also playing the video game. I don't know. That's my analogy of it, but I don't know. Leave a comment down below if you know what dreams about Minecraft means in any more specific sense. Somniphobia, or sleep dread, is a specific phobia characterized by an overwhelming fear of falling asleep or going to bed. Individuals with somniphobia may experience a range of symptoms, including heightened anxiety, panic attacks, sweating, trembling, and an overall dread of what might occur during sleep. Traumatic experiences during sleep, recurrent nightmares, or general anxiety disorder can all contribute to the development of somniphobia. The fear of sleep often leads to irregular sleep patterns, insomnia, and sleep deprivation, as individuals with somniphobia may be reluctant to initiate the sleep process due to their fear, and this is obviously very bad for your health because you end up sleeping very minimally. Freddy Krueger dreams. And this one is kind of also interesting because I'm not sure how to really cover it, whether you're dreaming about Freddy Krueger or the actual premise of the movie Nightmare on Elm Street, so I'll just go briefly over both. Nightmare on Elm Street, the film series, can be particularly intense and unsettling due to the horror genre associated with the character Freddy Krueger. In these dreams, individuals may experience vivid and frightening scenarios, mirroring the suspenseful nature of the movies. The very essence of Freddy Krueger is to haunt and harm people within the dream world, creating a sense of vulnerability and fear that extends beyond the screen, possibly into your own life if you were very scared of the movie. Rett syndrome. Rett syndrome is a rare and severe genetic neurological disorder that predominantly affects females, occurring in about 1 in 10,000 to 15,000 live female births. It is characterized by a distinct pattern of development, a period of normal growth and development during the first 6 months of life, followed by a sudden regression in acquired skills. This regression includes the loss of purposive hand skills, social engagement, and language abilities, marking the onset of the disorder. The majority of Rett syndrome cases are caused by mutations in the MECP2 gene located on the X chromosome. While most cases are sporadic, meaning they occur randomly, some may be inherited. And other than that, I'm really not sure why this was on the Sleep and Dream Iceberg because, you know, this is not really associated with sleeping or dreaming at all, and it's just kind of a weird diagnosis.
Right, so who are our enemies? We've got the best ones.
Motor functions in your body. Mirror dreams. Dreams featuring mirrors often delve into the symbolic realm, providing a canvas of sorts for self-reflection and introspection. When a dreamer encounters a mirror, it
Let's
can
do this one.
represent a subconscious desire for self-awareness and exploration. The clarity or distortion of the reflection may mirror the dreamer's perception of themselves, offering insights into their own self-image and identity. Identity and self-image are pretty common themes in mirror dreams and dreams in general, where the condition of the mirror or the appearance of the reflection becomes a symbolic reflection of how the dreamer sees themselves or wishes to be seen by others.
I should have used the
Out-of-body
over.
Experiences are a subjective phenomenon where individuals perceive themselves as being outside their physical bodies. These
Fuck.
experiences
Knew
are
that was
highly
gonna happen.
subjective and can manifest in various different ways, such as floating, flying, or observing one's own body from a different vantage point. And this can happen.
All right, let's start
during
using
certain
those.
Dreams of yourself, and you'll have a dream while you're sleeping that you see yourself, or it's an out-of-body experience. Pretty trippy. The occurrence of OBEs can be spontaneous or triggered by factors like near-death experiences, sleep paralysis, meditation, trauma, or the use of
Damn.
psychedelic substances. Some individuals intentionally induce OBEs through practices associated with lucid dreaming. Culturally and historically, OBEs have been reported across different societies and belief systems, showing that this has been happening for a while and all around the world. Interpretations of OBEs can vary based on different cultural beliefs and religious frameworks from around the world, with some associating them with concepts like astral projection. From a scientific perspective, OBEs are often linked to alterations in brain function. Researchers propose that disruptions in the integration of sensory information, changes in body perception, or neurochemical fluctuations in the brain may all contribute to this weird phenomenon of out-of-body experiences. And I've always found this kind of out-of-the-body experience very interesting. And me personally, have never experienced an out-of-body experience, but I'd be interested to hear if any of you guys down below, comment it down below, your sort of out-of-body experience, because I can't even like begin to imagine what that would be like, and it's just interesting. So share your stories down below.
We have got to the point
We
where
haven't
literally
tried
anybody can build a
to-
fully working app without knowing how to code. This is Base 44. This is a first look at the current industry-leading.
I couldn't tell because their ads always have like an AI person. I just couldn't tell if that one was
Sleep
one.
paralysis is a phenomenon characterized by a temporary inability to move voluntary muscles during the transitional phases of sleep and wakefulness. This peculiar state occurs as individuals are either falling asleep or waking up, so it's obviously just right at the beginning and end of sleep. A defining feature is the conscious awareness that accompanies the muscle immobility, leaving individuals fully awake mentally while temporarily paralyzed physically, so this can be pretty scary when it happens. During episodes of sleep paralysis, individuals often report vivid hallucinations, which can include a perceived presence in the room, pressure on the chest, or auditory hallucinations. Pretty crazy. These hallucinations, though not universal, contribute to the unsettling nature of the experience. The duration of sleep paralysis episodes is typically usually brief, ranging from a few seconds to a couple minutes, with normal muscle control returning upon fully waking up or fully falling asleep. Several factors can contribute to the occurrence of sleep paralysis, including irregular sleep patterns, sleep deprivation, or changes in your sleep schedule. While sleep paralysis is often associated with other sleep disorders, such as narcolepsy, it can also manifest just independently and randomly. Cultural interpretations of sleep paralysis vary, with some societies attributing the experience to supernatural entities or malevolent spirits. This cultural context can include and influence the perception of a threatening presence during the episodes. Alien abduction dreams. Alien abduction dreams represent a subset of vivid and often unsettling dream experiences where individuals believe they have been taken by extraterrestrial beings. These dreams are characterized by their vividness and an overwhelming sense of realism, Recurring elements in these dreams include encounters with beings often described as grays with distinctive features, bright lights, and a feeling of paralysis. The dreamers commonly report a sense of helplessness during the experience, manifesting itself as an inability to move, speak, or resist the actions of the extraterrestrial beings. So this isn't a very, happy dream. The emotional tone of alien abduction dreams is marked by intense fear and anxiety. The unfamiliar and potentially threatening nature of the scenario contributes to the distressing feelings associated with these dreams. So, kind of weird. Night terrors, or sleep terrors, are a type of parasomnia characterized by sudden and intense episodes of fear, screaming, and apparent panic during non-REM sleep. Typically beginning in childhood, these episodes can persist into adulthood, occurring within the first few hours of falling asleep. Lasting only a few minutes, a person experiencing a night terror may exhibit behaviors such as
I still
sitting on
can't
the
figure
bed,
this one out.
screaming, or thrashing around, all while appearing unresponsive to attempts at comfort. One distinctive feature is the lack of recall upon waking, with individuals often having zero to no memory of the intense emotions or actions during the episode that happened. Unlike nightmares, night terrors are not associated with any sort of dream, making them less amenable to traditional dream analysis. They can be triggered by factors such as sleep deprivation, stress, fever, or certain medications, and their frequency can vary from infrequent to multiple times a night.
Damn. What a waste.
Sandman. The term Sandman is often associated with folklore and popular culture as a mythical character who is said to bring sleep to children by sprinkling sand or dust over their eyes, inducing a state of drowsiness and, of course, sleep. False awakening is a fascinating and kind of weird and scary phenomenon where individuals dream about waking up, only to later realize that they were still within a dream. These experiences are marked by a high level of realism and detail, with dreamers navigating their surroundings and their house and engaging in routine activities as if they were waking up in reality, such as, getting up, brushing your teeth, getting in the shower, whatever, and then you wake up again to realize that that was all a dream. The vivid nature of false awakenings often makes it challenging to distinguish the dream state from actual wakefulness. One distinctive feature of false awakenings is the awareness and consciousness that accompanies them, such as a lucid dream. Dreamers are fully convinced that they have successfully woken up and proceeded with their morning routine, only to later discover that they were still immersed in a dream.
YouTube Premium is ad-free YouTube and video downloads, so you can watch cooking shows as you eat airplane food. YouTube Premium.
The recurrence of false awakenings, where individuals believe that they have repeatedly woken up, contributes to a sense of obvious confusion and disorientation. Emotionally, false awakenings can elicit a range of feelings, including surprise, frustration, and occasional anxiety. The abrupt realization that one is still dreaming after the belief of having awakened adds a layer of complexity to the dream experience. Furthermore, false awakenings may serve as a gateway to lucid dreamings, providing an opportunity for the dreamer to become aware of their dream state, and in some cases, exert control over the unfolding narrative, causing them to do something other than their normal thing because they can realize that it's a dream state and it's not real life, so they can do whatever they want because it's a lucid dream, but pretty scary nonetheless if you think you woke up but it's just still a dream. Coma sleep. A coma represents a state of profound unconsciousness in which an individual is unresponsive to external stimuli and unable to wake up any under condition. This condition is typically triggered by severe brain injuries such as traumatic head injury, strokes, or conditions affecting the brain's function. One distinctive aspect of coma sleep is the absence of the typical sleep patterns observed in conscious individuals. Unlike the normal sleep-wake cycle with distinct stages and cycles, individuals in a coma do not experience the characteristic sleep stages because they're not sleeping. They're kind of just knocked out in a sense. Comatose individuals are closely monitored in a medical setting to assess the vital signs, brain activity, and other parameters critical for providing appropriate medical care and support. The duration of coma can vary widely, ranging from relatively short periods to more extended phases, such as, a few days to a few years. The underlying causes of comas are often serious medical conditions or injuries affecting the brain, encompassing traumatic brain injuries, strokes, infections, and metabolic disorders. Coma recovery is a complex and unpredictable process. Some individuals gradually emerge from a coma, transitioning to a state of reduced consciousness known as the vegetative state or minimally conscious state. The recovery trajectory varies widely among individuals, and the degree of recovery is influenced by factors such as underlying cause of the coma and the extent of the brain damage. Tier 5. Dreams about pyramids and ancient debris. Dreams featuring pyramids and other ancient debris weave a tapestry of weird symbolism and potential meanings. The iconic pyramids, with their historical and cultural significance, often serve as a powerful symbol in the realm of dreams. One interpretation may link them to stability and strength, suggesting a subconscious desire for a solid foundation in waking life or a belief in personal resilience. The dream might be urging you to build a stable and enduring structure for your goals and aspirations. So, kind of interesting how your subconscious picks up on these things, and that your dreams actually sometimes have meaning that you never knew about and that could greatly improve your life. Something I never knew before making this video, but pretty interesting. Melatonin dreams. Melatonin itself doesn't directly induce dreams. Its influence on sleep patterns can affect the nature of your dream experiences, although, when used as a supplement to improve your sleep quality, melatonin may contribute to more vivid and memorable dreams. Dreams typically occur during REM sleep, and melatonin's impact on sleep architecture can greatly influence the frequency and the intensity of dream experiences. T-break dreams, or tolerance break dreams, and taking a tolerance break from substances like cannabis can lead to notable changes in your dream experiences. Cannabis is known to suppress REM sleep, a phase associated with vivid dreaming. As one refrains from cannabis use
That
during
could be
a
good.
T-break,
Fuck it.
a rebound effect
Yes.
may occur, resulting in an increase in REM sleep.
Yep.
This heightened REM
That's what I needed.
activity often contributes to more intense and memorable dreams. During a tea break, individuals frequently report an enhanced ability to recall their dreams. Cannabis use can diminish dream recall, so abstaining from its consumption can lead to increased awareness and retention of dream content. So basically, your body has been kind of waiting to release all of your kind of dreams of some sort, if that's a good way to think of it. But if while under the influence of cannabis for an extended amount of time, your body is still waiting to release all of that kind of dream juice to an extent. So when you finally take a tolerance break, it will just release it all kind of at one time or in big loads, and you'll just see a lot more vivid dreams after your tolerance break. Technology almost never works in dreams. The recurrent theme of technology frequently failing to work as expected in dreams can be attributed to several different factors inherent to the dreaming experience. Dreams, by nature, follow an inconsistent and unique logic that doesn't faithfully replicate the intrinsic details and functions of technology or reality. The brain responsible for dream creation may not fully recreate the specific features, the specific buttons, or functionalities of
I wanted
devices
this one to level
found
up.
in waking reality. Moreover, dreams often prioritize emotional content, narrative, and symbolic representation over the meticulous recreation of technological details, and it's hard for your brain to kind of do that to any extent. The malfunctioning of technology in dreams may serve actually,
never mind.
instead of just technology not working, but as a
I think we
symbolic
can continue
representation
this
of
game.
broader
I think we
emotions,
can continue.
fears, or uncertainties in your life, such as the feelings of loss of control, frustration, or anxiety. Dreams operate in a realm where the mind is somewhat disconnected from the constraints of reality. Exploding head syndrome is an unusual sleep phenomenon characterized by the perception of loud, often explosive sounds during the transition between wakefulness and sleep. Despite its alarming name, EHS, or exploding head syndrome, is not accompanied by any sort of pain or actual physical harm. Thank God there isn't a syndrome out there that just, explodes your head. But any episodes are usually typically brief, lasting only a few seconds, but it can be really scary for the person experiencing it. The auditory hallucinations resembling explosions, gunshots, or thunder occur most commonly during the onset of sleep or upon waking. It is considered a pretty rare phenomenon, with a higher prevalence in women and individuals over the age of 50. The exact cause of EHS still remains unclear, but it may be linked to factors such as stress, fatigue, and changes in your sleep pattern. Episodes tend to be more prevalent during periods of sleep deprivation. While EHS may be startling, it is generally benign, with no associated health risks, but it will just scare the hell out of you. Diagnosing EHS is based on the characteristic symptoms reported by individuals, and there are no specific tests for this identification, but it's pretty easy to tell if you have it because you'll just, hear a gunshot or explosion right before you go to bed or right as you wake up. Hypnopompic hallucinations, occurring during the transition from sleep to wakefulness, are vivid and often unsettling sensory experiences. Taking place in the hypnopompic state, these hallucinations can encompass various sensory modalities, such as visual, auditory, and tactile sensations. The experiences are characterized by their realism, blurring the boundaries between dreams and waking reality. So this is kind of like dreaming, but you're kind of awake, but you're not really awake, and you're not really dreaming. So just kind of like a merge between those two in a blur. These hallucinations can involve a range of content, from seeing people, animals, or objects, to hearing voices, music, or other sounds. So once again, this can be pretty scary. Some individuals may also experience tactile sensations, feeling as if they are being touched. That's pretty creepy. The content of hypnopompic hallucinations can occasionally be frightening, involving a sense of impending danger, strange creatures around you or in your room, or threatening voices. So, not a fun experience nonetheless. While hypnopompic hallucinations can be associated with sleep disorders such as narcolepsy and sleep paralysis, they may also occur independently and randomly, which makes them almost more scary because, you could go to sleep tonight and wake up surrounded by animals or people touching you. So just hopefully that doesn't happen to any of you guys watching, but that's just crazy how stuff like this can happen just randomly with no real explanation. Tier 6. Dream Remote Viewing. Dream remote viewing is a concept rooted in the idea of gaining information about distant or unseen targets through extrasensory perception, which is pretty interesting. I've seen this and studied this by myself quite a lot, and it's pretty interesting. And so this ESP within the dream state, it involves the perception of knowledge or insights beyond the ordinary senses, often resembling precognition or clairvoyance. While remote viewing typically refers to the conscious attempt to gather information about distant targets, dream remote viewing expands this phenomenon into the realm of dreams. In the context of dream remote viewing, individuals may report experiences of accessing information about future events or distant locations while dreaming. Precognitive dreams, wherein dream content aligns with later real-world occurrences, are closely associated with this concept. The interpretation of such dreams often involves deciphering symbolic representations, as dreams are known for their symbolic and metaphorical nature, but other than that, most of the time, it's just actually a coincidence that these things happen, and sometimes people can get pretty lucky and keep getting these coincidences over and over and over again, and so they think they can see into the future or get information about something while they're not even remotely close to that area about knowing that. And so Pretty interesting, but my personal opinion, I think it's just a coincidence whenever this stuff happens. Fever dreams. Fever dreams, characterized by vivid and often bizarre dream experiences, occur during episodes of alleviated body temperature, usually associated with infections. The impact of fever on the brain's neurotransmitters and overall activity can lead to heightened dream intensity. Dehydration, often accompanying fever, may also contribute to the alterations in the dream content. The disrupted sleep patterns during a fever with more frequent awakenings increase the likelihood of remembering dreams, especially if waking occurs during or shortly after the dream. The content of fever dreams tends to be surreal, emotionally charged, and sometimes hallucinatory. The Gray Man. So I couldn't find anything very specific or any sort of definitions for the Gray Man, but I did find this very interesting Reddit story. I know how people feel about Reddit stories and how they say they're fake and stuff, but I found this interesting, so I'll go ahead and read it. And this is pretty long, but just bear with me, it's interesting. Okay, so this is a man's first-hand experience with a gray man. So let's go on. Okay, I'm really starting to get freaked out. Hopefully someone on here has some idea of what might be going on and can offer some advice. I feel like I'm going crazy. My husband and I moved into a new apartment 2 weeks ago. It's a newish building.
Okay.
I don't know the exact age, but my guess is that it's 15 years old at most. It's the kind of place that young couples and families live in, or groups of friends who combine rent while going to school. It's located near another apartment complexes in another college town. Nothing seems out of the ordinary with the place, and I don't know that it has a history. We bought up the rest of someone else's contract because they were moving out of town for work, but they seemed to be sad to leave this place. So I don't think they had any weird experiences or anything, but I found something weird since moving here. Although it's mostly been these undefinable things, it's not the kind of lights turn on and off type of spooky, more like the I'm slowly losing my mind kind. It started when we were moving in our stuff. I'm afraid of dogs, and I was carrying in some boxes. I saw the shadow or something that reminded me of a dog, but it turned out to be nothing. That kept happening during the first week or so I think I'd seen something, or someone, but nothing was there. No big deal, right? But it was weird because that doesn't usually happen to me. I've also had nightmares every single night since we moved in. I was prone to having them occasionally before, but not like this, nor with such extreme regularity. I try not to think about them too much, so a lot of the content is forgotten. I know that there's death, murder, S-word, being followed, getting attacked, etc. though, so not a good thing. My husband leaves for work very early, and I've been mostly working from home lately, so I'm usually alone when I wake up the second time, the first being when he gets up, and until he gets home in the afternoon. I get really freaked out by noises though. I keep thinking someone is in our apartment. I'm pretty sure most of the noises are coming from the tenants and neighboring units, but it feels like they're coming from other rooms in our place. Because I kept locking myself in the bathroom to feel safer. My husband finally installed a lock in our bedroom. I keep thinking someone's going to come in and attack me. What finally pushed me to reach out and see if you or you guys have any ideas what happened this morning. My husband went to work as usual, and I fell back to sleep. I started having nightmares again, then suddenly, I woke up and couldn't move. I've had sleep paralysis before, maybe 2 or 3 times in my life, but the last time was when I was maybe 14, so about 10 years ago. What made this time different was
I wonder why
that
they're doing
I
so much
actually
more damage there.
hallucinating, if that's what it was. This tall, gray man was standing right next to me, next to my bed. I was sure he was about to hurt me. All those noises I've heard, the perpetrator that was out to get me, the content of my bad dreams. This was it. This guy was going to hurt me and probably kill me. I tried to move, but I couldn't. I was convinced that if I could just get up and get out of the room, I'd be able to run away because he didn't know I was awake yet. So maybe I would take him by surprise. But he noticed me. When I've had sleep paralysis before, I got out of it in maybe 3 minutes, but this went on for what felt like hours, but was probably closer to 15 minutes. I finally just fell asleep again because I couldn't ever wake up enough to do anything but move my eyes slightly.
What do I do here?
This is all very uncharacteristic for me. I don't get scared by anything paranormal or supernatural. I had a horror movie phase a couple years ago where I tried to find any movie that could scare me if I was lucky. 1 in 10 movies made me jump once. I eventually gave up. I read no sleep maybe once every 2 weeks. But it's all fun and games, and I don't actually take any of it very seriously. Now, if this is all up to an overactive imagination or something, then it will go away, or at least I'm not in any real danger. But if this is something supernatural, what do I do? What do you think is going on? What can I do to make it stop? Is it just gonna get getting worse? Alright, that was the Reddit story, but I think it did a good job at showing how creepy sleep paralysis can be in this so-called gray man. But as I've done a little bit more research, it
Damn,
says
I should use that one.
most of the time, this quote gray man is just something that happens somewhat common during sleep paralysis, but terrifying nonetheless. Shadow people. Shadow people, a paranormal phenomenon also kind of related to the last entry, are often described as dark, shadowy figures with a humanoid appearance. Witnesses recount encounters with these entities as fleeting and unsettling experiences. The figures are typically perceived in peripheral vision, characterized by a dark and featureless silhouette resembling a person. Reports commonly involve rapid movements and instances where the entities seem to vanish or dart out of sight when directly observed.
Ooh, they came back around.
Low light conditions or during the night.
Why did they come back
Some
around?
individuals describe feeling a sense of dread or fear
Oh, wow.
during these experiences. Randy Gardner Sleep Deprivation Experiment. The Randy Gardner Sleep Deprivation Experiment is a well-known case study that took place in 1964, involving a high school student named Randy Gardner. The experiment was conducted as a science fair project with the assistance of 2 Stanford University researchers.
Yeah, I think it's
Denver
time to end this
and
one.
Jack D. Broughton. Randy Gardner, at the age of 17, decided to test the limits of human wakefulness by staying awake as long as possible. The experiment took place over a total of 11 days, from December 28, 1963 to January 8, 1964. Gardner's goal was to break the existing record for sleep deprivation, which was set at 260 hours, which was approximately 11 days at the time. Throughout the experiment, Gardner was monitored by researchers, and his physical and psychological condition was documented. The study attracted significant attention, and Gardner's experience provided valuable insights into the effects of prolonged sleep deprivation. As the experiment progressed, Gardner experienced various symptoms of sleep deprivation, including irritability, mood swings, impaired concentration, and lapses in memory. His cognitive abilities and motor skills also deteriorated. Towards the end of the experiment, he started to exhibit signs of paranoia and hallucinations. After 11 days without sleep, Gardner finally allowed himself to sleep. Remarkably, he slept for 14 hours and 40 minutes straight, and upon waking, he reported feeling well rested and alert. Despite the extreme nature of the experiment, Gardner did not suffer any long-term negative effects, and his body and mind seemed to recover relatively quickly. Fatal insomnia. Fatal insomnia is an extremely rare and progressive neurodegenerative disorder that leads to severe sleep disruption and ultimately death. This disorder is part of a group of diseases known as prion diseases, which involve the misfolding of protons in the brain. The condition is characterized by the gradual and irreversible deterioration of the thalamus.
Oh, you know what? No, because nature is there, so
regulating sleep.
we're gonna
As the
do
disorder
something. Runs
progresses,
towards the
individuals
enemy and
experience
explodes, dealing area
insomnia,
damage.
leading to
Sure, why
complete
not?
inability to sleep. Apart from insomnia, symptoms may include weight loss, hallucinations, and other psychiatric symptoms. Cognitive functions also decline, and individuals may experience difficulty with coordination and movement. The name fatal insomnia reflects the grim prognosis associated with the disorder. The progression is relentless, and individuals affected by the condition typically succumb to it within a year or two symptom onset. Tier 7, Klein-Levin syndrome, or KLS, commonly known as Sleeping Beauty syndrome, is a rare neurological disorder characterized by recurring episodes of excessive sleep, accompanied by cognitive and behavioral changes. Individuals with KLS may enter episodes during which they sleep for abnormally extended periods, sometimes up to 20 hours a day, and these episodes can persist for days, weeks, or even months, sleeping away almost months of their life. Alongside excessive sleep, affected individuals may exhibit cognitive symptoms like confusion and
think I have that.
disorientation, as well as behavioral changes such as irritability, mood swings,
Can't fucking I mean,
hyperphagia, which is increased
can sleep
appetite
for
and
days.
eating, and in some cases, hypersexuality. Visual or auditory hallucinations may also occur, primarily impacting adolescents and young adults. The exact cause of KLS remains uncertain. Nicotine patches dreams. Nicotine patches dreams, commonly employed in smoking concession programs to help individuals quit smoking, release a controlled dose of nicotine through the skin, aiding in the gradual reduction of nicotine dependence. While generally associated with a lower risk of adverse effects compared to smoking, some users have reported experiencing vivid and unusual dreams when using nicotine patches. The exact reasons for this phenomenon are not entirely clear, but potential explanations include nicotine's impact on sleep architecture, acting as a stimulant that may influence the REM stage where vivid dreaming occurs. Additionally, withdrawal symptoms during nicotine reduction as part of smoking cessation could contribute to changes in your sleep pattern and the overall dream experiences. Childhood memory dreams. Childhood memory dreams are a manifestation of the mind's ability to draw upon recollections, impressions, and emotions and memories from early years during the dream state. These dreams may involve reliving specific moments, interacting with past figures, or incorporating elements significant during your childhood. The emotional weight associated with childhood events often contributes to the potency of these dreams. Revisiting memories during dreams can serve various different purposes, including emotional processing, resolution of unresolved issues, and a sense of comfort or escape through nostalgia. PTSD nightmares, or post-traumatic stress disorder nightmares, are prevalent and pretty distressing symptom experienced by individuals who have undergone traumatic events. PTSD, arising from exposure to life-threatening experiences like combat, assault, or accidents, often manifest through vivid and recurrent nightmares. These nightmares involve distressing reenactments of the traumatic event, contributing to the persistent sense of distress and emotional turmoil. Flashbacks, wherein individuals feel as they are reliving the trauma, can be triggered by these nightmares, accompanied by physical and emotional reactions reminiscent of the original trauma. The impact of PTSD nightmares extends beyond just the dream state, affecting overall sleep quality and contributing to sleep disturbances like insomnia. Tier 8, Trapped in a Dream. And this is most likely referring to just sleep paralysis, which is what we've talked about before, but it's a phenomenon involving temporary immobility during the transition between sleep and wakefulness. And it can evoke a feeling of being confined or trapped, and these hallucinations that go along with it could be the idea of being trapped in a dream. The Man Who Never Slept, otherwise known as Al Herpin, was an American known for his claim of having lived an extraordinary long life without sleep. Herpin asserted that he had not slept for decades, and this assertion gained attention, making him a notable figure in discussions about sleep and human psychology. Herpin's life of perpetual wakefulness attracted public interest, and he became known as the Man Who Never Slept, or the Marvelous Man Who Does Not Sleep. However, his claims were met with skepticism, and there's any limited scientific documentation or validation of his sleep patterns, so he could just have made that up and was lying about it. And alright, that wraps up the Sleep and Dream Iceberg. I really hope you enjoyed, because I enjoyed talking about it and researching it and writing the script every night.
The following video was recorded in 2016 and first posted in May of 2017. However, this is more than simply a re-edit of a previously deleted video. More specifically, after the 7-minute mark, virtually all the footage shown has never been seen before. It's basically like a new video.
We know that from time to time there arise among human beings people who seem to exude love as naturally as the sun gives out heat.
We do not promote the use of legal or illegal psychoactive substances. This video has been created strictly for harm reduction purposes. According to YouTube's own community guidelines shown here, videos which intend to educate but do not glorify substance use are generally suitable for advertising. The following video does not glorify the use of drugs, is also not graphic since it does not show the consumption of any illegal substances. The following video is strictly educational. Now, the primary concern, I think, with DMT is if someone gives you 5-MeO-DMT when you're expecting NN-DMT. This video is about NN-dimethyltryptamine, but there's another substance that causes similar effects where it kind of pulls out of your body, and it's called 5-MeO-DMT. The primary differences are 5-MeO-DMT doesn't necessarily have the same safety profile as DMT, and it's far more potent. I think it's something like 4 times as potent, don't quote me on that, but I do know that if you were to take, say, 50 milligrams of DMT, and you accidentally took 50 milligrams of 5-MeO-DMT, there's a good chance that you would experience something like respiratory failure. In fact, there used to be a video on YouTube, I'm not sure if you can still find it, of this doctor, or shaman I mean, who administers 5-MeO-DMT to this woman. And he explains in the video that she was turning purple, so he had to pour water on her face so she would start breathing. Granted, in low doses, it's probably very safe. No one has ever died from smoking 5-MeO-DMT.
Poured water down her throat.
People have died from ingesting 5-MeO-DMT orally. They've died from mixing it with monoamine oxidase inhibitors. If you live in, for example, Canada, it's actually a legal research chemical, meaning anybody can order it online legally. It falls in this little gray area where as long as it's not sold for human consumption, people can buy it and then sell it to people saying, hey, here's some DMT. All that I'm really getting at here is you really want to make sure that you have real NN-DMT before you go off and load a bowl with like 50 milligrams and hope to break through. Now, unfortunately, these reagent kits won't 100% tell you that you have the drug you're hoping to have. But for those of you who don't want to spend the time, sending your drugs away to a laboratory and waiting for the results, it's really the next best thing. And as long as you're using more than one reagent, the testing is quite accurate.
Shout out to this guy, Psych Substance. If you've never seen him before, you're welcome for introducing
you.
him.
If you are low on cash, you could technically get away with just using the Ehrlich and then using the marquees to identify what you have. You can get each of these reagents for $20 or less. I know for some of you watching, this can get quite expensive. I mean, you have to get the substance that you want to consume, you've got to get the reagent kits to test it, but that's just the price you have to pay if you want to, take care of your body and ensure that you don't accidentally harm or, worse, kill yourself over a drug experience. Anyway, now that we have got all of the tedious safety information out of the way, let's move on to the second part of this video where we document Seth's live experience. For this experience, he attempted to consume about 50 milligrams of some DMT that he personally tested himself, so he knew it was real, and I was there along for the ride to videotape his experience and, have him pretty much break it down after it happened. It's pretty apparent that he's not really enjoying himself.
The following segment has been included for documentary purposes only. It needs to be clear that the creators of this video do not condone the use of legal or illegal substances. We were only here to document Seth's experience. Seth is the creator of the Drug Classroom YouTube series, and he is currently studying for his PhD in neuroscience. The following clip begins the moment that Seth appears to lose consciousness. And as per YouTube's advertiser-friendly guidelines, no substance consumption has been displayed.
He's fucking gone. Look at him.
The main event is another dimension. A dimension so bizarre, so titanically peculiar, so strange, so unanticipated by our language, our history, our literature, that it is literally like the discovery of another world.
He's fucking gone. Alright, what happens to him?
Please keep in mind that while Seth attempts to explain his experience, he is still extremely groggy and discombobulated, and he wanted me to include some kind of a warning here because he was kind of embarrassed of just how, I don't know, out of it he looked.
So, was there any fear?
There was sort of an initial period where it wasn't like a fear, but more like a frozen in terror type response. Like I had no clue how to process what was happening, so it was just like I was just stuck. It's not really fear, like really scared, because I wasn't even processing being scared. I was just like frozen in terror.
Terror is a step above scared, though.
Yeah, I'm trying to differentiate them as being like scared or fear, having more subjective quality to it, and really I'm just trying to use the phrase frozen in terror because I'm not sure how to describe my emotional state during it.
Was there any panic? Did you feel a sense of like impending doom?
No.
Okay.
No, honestly, the greatest negative, like true negative feelings actually came after the experience was over.
Oh.
Yeah, it kind of hit me then. For no reason.
What were the negatives?
I don't know. It was a more genuine feeling of scared, coupled with confusion, for like 5 minutes or so. And this was after, like, there were still some visuals at that point, but it's just minor.
What did it look like in here? What were the visuals like when you did come to?
Just really, really bright, and like the floor had multiple layers, like 2 layers. And there was the floor, then there was like a floor above the floor.
Yeah.
Like projecting from it. And beyond that, I didn't pay much attention. I just kind of stumbled out of the room.
Yeah, when he came to you, he said he had to use the bathroom, and then he disappeared.
Yeah.
So let's cover the positives. Did you get anything positive out of that?
I don't know if I got anything positive out of that.
So to sum up the experience, it was colors.
No, it wasn't even really colors. The primary thing was, I'm talking like the thousands of visualized, I don't even want to say entities, because they practically looked human-like.
You saw like creatures, like.
Yeah.
I'm just saying creatures for lack
We're gonna
of
go with the normal
term. I don't want to call humans because they weren't for sure humans. They
no,
were
they seemed like
bipedals. Is that what you'd call it?
No, they were like
bipeds.
They were almost caricatures of humans.
Okay.
Like humans in a animated movie. Like they were distinctly not human, but they had the closest resemblance to a human. But they weren't just like a ball of energy or like an animal, but like human-like.
What were they made of? What did their skin look like?
Honestly,
Did they have skin?
They did, because their faces were distinguishable and they all looked different.
Okay.
And they were doing different things. Most of the time, like coming towards me, like encroaching on me. Sometimes they were just doing things in the background, but they were literally in the thousands, which is why it's hard to really give a description of what they were doing.
You didn't. There was no waiting room or tunnel that you would describe.
No, the only tunnel was in the true beginning period, and then it sort of there was, at the same time as the ringing was building in my ears, there was sort of at this point it was only colors, and it kind of felt like a tunnel in that regard. And then it broke into this experience, which was just dominated by these whatever human-like things. Then I'm not sure how far through it was. I'm not sure for time, but
Time dilation? Any of that? Did it feel like it was a long time or just regular time? Like you were out for 5 to 8 minutes. Did it feel that long or longer?
Oh, yeah, it wasn't extreme dilation, but that felt like a 20-30 minute.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not a 5-day experience. There were stages, and even stages coming out, because went from sort of the colors and some patterns and the
Discover your new Volvo right now at Volvo Cars, Fort Washington. Come lease a 2025 Volvo EX90 for $893 per month for 39 months. The search is over. Visit us today at Volvo Cars, Fort Washington.
ringing in my ears, with the sound in my ears, going into sort of opening into some figures existing to then more sort of detailed figures existing, backing out of the experience in the same sort of stages with this literal door closing, which is one of the only memories I have.
Did you feel a sense of rising out of your body, or like an out-of-body type experience? Or did you feel like the whole time you were in yourself?
No, in the sort of pre-peak and post-peak, I just felt somewhat connected to my body. Because I could hear things. I didn't feel connected to my legs at any point, so I was pretty much connected from chest up. But during the peak, I really don't have any memory of I wasn't comprehending my body at all.
Okay.
But there wasn't a feeling of rising out of the body. It just kind of seized something that was registering.
That's what I mean.
I was totally focused on whatever was happening.
So there was never a feeling of like I'm leaving myself.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
No, and I didn't feel like I was close to a breakthrough. If I were just to go a little bit further, something more could happen. I took that to mean sort of a breakthrough was around the corner. Instead, it was really this.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And people don't realize how difficult it actually is to get that breakthrough. I've had people email me being like, "Do you have any tips on how to break through? I've got this stuff, I can't get there." It's effort. It's some
At
hard
25,
work
wasn't it just at
to
28?
get that experience. For some people, for others, it seems like they just need a little bit and they're gone.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
And what's interesting is that both in this experience and obviously other people's for DMT,
I'm
sort of this
confused as
effect
to why
of
this one's not
producing
gaining.
either open or closed eye visualizations of whether it's people or animals or whatever, which doesn't happen really reliably with common psychedelics like LSD. You're usually not going to have like a visualization of an animal or a person.
No.
Yet, it is incredibly common on ayahuasca.
True.
And it kind of felt like a closed eye version. I've never done ayahuasca, but it felt like the visualizations were somewhat similar to what is described open eye with ayahuasca.
Okay. But all too fast to really interpret
Yeah,
it
and
in any kind
that's
of
the
way.
thing. It wasn't like true memory impairment. Like, it wasn't like that period it was just blacked out. It was just too much going on. So
like sensory overload?
Yeah, because I could give you a description to some extent for like 2 of the figures I saw, but there were 1,000. 1,000 in a literal time span of like 5 minutes.
Were they aware of each other?
No, they weren't interacting with each other. They were just doing their own stuff.
Ah.
Yeah, and sometimes they totally ignored me, and I was just viewing them. And other times it was like they were like stabbing into my like eyes, essentially, like literally, yeah. And then all sorts of weird actions.
Well, let's put this in the record books for another very bizarre DMT experience to add to the collection.
And obviously went into it with the goal of a breakthrough, but the nice thing is that this is a different group of effects than I've had before, so it wasn't a total waste or anything.
I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy this video, and if you enjoyed the part with Seth, I would highly recommend that you guys go and subscribe to his channel. Seth has a similar goal that I have. He wishes to destigmatize drugs and to help people be more safe. He just takes a slightly more scientific approach than I do. I'd also like to give a big thank you to everyone who has subscribed to me. If you guys like what you see, please consider subscribing. I'd also like to give a big shout out to all the Patreons.
One night in 1944, an American military pilot was flying over England when he turned around in his cockpit and looked at this panel of switches that was right behind him. And after looking for a particular switch, he reached out and he was about to toggle it, but he stopped. Because he knew what he was about to do, flipping this switch, would easily be the most dangerous thing he had ever done in his entire life. But this was his duty. He had to do it. And so, after taking a deep breath, he flipped the switch. And immediately, chaos ensued, and the course of American history would be drastically changed forever. If you've never heard the story before, and many people have not, this is not nearly as well known as it should be, then you are in for a huge reveal at the end. But before we get into that story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place, because that's all we do, and we upload once a week. So, if that's of interest to you, please secretly log in to the Like Button's computer, and then transfer all of their Bitcoin to your untraceable offshore account. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Okay, let's get into today's story. At around 5:30 p.m. on the evening of August 12, 1944, a young American military pilot named Joe walked out of his quarters on his base in England to the station. As soon as he was outside, he lit a cigarette to calm his nerves, and as he smoked the cigarette, he began walking towards the huge hangar on the other side of the base, where his plane was waiting for him. Joe had been preparing for this night for weeks. He and his co-pilot, a 35-year-old lieutenant who was nicknamed Bud, were about to step off on a top-secret military mission called Operation Aphrodite. And this mission was not only top secret, but it was so unbelievably dangerous that basically anybody who knew about it considered it a suicide mission. But Joe tried not to think about that as he walked towards the hangar. Instead, he tried to think about the reason he was here in the first place, the reason he had joined the military, and that was to defeat the Nazis. And what he and his co-pilot were about to do, Operation Aphrodite, was going to play a huge role in defeating the Nazis. So this was about 5 years into World War II, and at this point, the Nazis were actually losing. However, it was making them more dangerous, not less, because they were becoming very, very desperate. And so they were launching all these outrageous attacks, basically because they had nothing to lose. And one horrible thing the Nazis were doing at this time were dropping these things called vengeance weapons. Hitler called them vengeance weapons. They were basically these huge bombs that the Nazis would drop arbitrarily across the United Kingdom on major population centers. And by this point in the war, these vengeance weapons had killed over 5,000 civilians. And at this exact moment, like this night, as Joe was walking towards the hangar, the Nazis had a stash of vengeance weapons aimed directly at London. That was going to be their next target. And so the mission that Joe and his co-pilot Bud were going on, Operation Aphrodite, was going to be to go out and destroy those vengeance weapons to save London. And as nervous as Joe was about this mission, and he was really nervous, he was also very excited. He actually had volunteered for this mission when many other pilots had done everything they could to stay away from this mission. And on top of that, Joe actually had flown enough missions by this point in the war that he didn't need to fly anymore. He could just go home. But instead, he volunteered for this mission. And a reason why Joe might have decided to do that has a lot to do with the family he was raised in. So Joe came from a family that was very successful and accomplished, and his father really pushed Joe and his younger brother to be the very best at whatever they were doing and to be very competitive with each other. And so while Joe and his younger brother did love each other, they also had a pretty intense rivalry. And for a while, Joe's father obviously favored Joe. I mean, Joe was the favorite child, and, you know, his father would always say, Joe's gonna be the president someday. He's so talented. But after the attack on Pearl Harbor that brought the United States into World War II, both Joe and his younger brother joined the military, and pretty early on in the war, Joe's younger brother got an award for heroism. He basically saved his platoon of men, and he won all these awards, and he was all over the news. And pretty quickly after that, Joe felt like he fell out of favor with his dad. That his dad kind of looked at the younger brother as being the favorite child now. And so Joe really started to feel insecure and wanted to prove himself really to his dad. And so when Operation Aphrodite came up, Joe volunteered for it really because he wanted to be a hero. He wanted to show his dad that he too could do something huge and change the course of history. And he would change the course of history, but not in the way he expected. And so Joe continued to smoke a cigarette and hustled across the base towards the hangar, and as he did, he found himself kind of speeding up, like he just wanted to get over there and get started. Joe's commanders had given him a special code he would call out over the radio if this mission was successful. It was spade flush, that's what he'd say over the radio. And so as Joe hustled towards the hangar, he imagined how incredible it was going to be to yell out spade flush over the radio. I mean, it was only like 30 minutes away from that moment. This was a short mission. And so finally Joe reached the hangar and he looked up to the sky one more time to make sure the weather looked solid, because actually they had tried to launch Operation Aphrodite a couple of days earlier, but it had been canceled because of fog. But Joe looked around and the weather looked good, and so he knew it was going to be a go. So he flipped his cigarette butt and stepped into the hangar. Inside this hangar was this massive, big open space. And in the
I've definitely seen this
hangar
video,
on
I
the
just don't
floor
know what it's
was
about
this
anymore.
Huge plane called a B-24 Liberator. This was, of course, Joe's plane for the night. And so Joe immediately began walking towards the plane to check it out. Now, this particular type of plane was the type of plane Joe had been flying for the past 3 years. I mean, he'd flown many combat missions in this type of aircraft, so he was very familiar with it. But this particular B-24 was unlike any of the other B-24s Joe had ever flown. In fact, this aircraft was so unique, it was unlike any aircraft that any pilot in the American military had ever flown. I mean, this was really a one-of-one. And so as Joe walked around the outside of this plane, he began to notice some of these unique modifications that the mechanics had made to this aircraft. The most noticeable modification was actually the cockpit. Now, normally the cockpit had all these windows basically all around it, so the pilot could look in any direction and see what was going on, but obviously they needed to be protected from the elements. But this B-24 had all the glass removed except for one pane of glass basically right in front of where Joe would be staring, just like a single windshield. And so it's almost like it was a convertible aircraft where it was all open air in the cockpit. And the reason for this change is because Joe and his co-pilot, during the course of this top secret mission, Operation Aphrodite, they would have to jump out and parachute to the ground. And so by having this all open, it would allow them to do that much easier. And then another big modification to the B-24 is the guns that were normally located on the outside of the aircraft were gone, and they were replaced by broomsticks painted black to look like guns at a distance. But the visible changes to this particular B-24 were nothing compared to the massive changes that were hidden inside this aircraft, because the top secret part of Operation Aphrodite was really this particular plane. The plane was not really a plane, it was more like a huge flying bomb. The military's mechanics basically hollowed out the entirety of this plane, removed everything inside of it that was not absolutely vital, and they replaced it with explosives. 10 tons of explosives. Like, this is an unbelievable amount of explosives. A few minutes later, at around 5:55 p.m., Joe and his co-pilot Bud, who by this point had come into the hangar, finished doing their exterior inspection of the aircraft, and then they climbed into the cockpit, with Joe taking a seat in the pilot's seat and Bud sitting in the co-pilot's seat. And even though the evening was cool, both men were visibly sweating. Once the pilots got the go-ahead to begin the mission, Joe fired the first engine and then turned to look at the ground crew all around them, and he noticed all of them looked really, really serious. I mean, they obviously knew how intensely dangerous this mission really was. And the fact was, you know, the pilots might not make it home, and so they're looking up at these guys like, I'm sorry you have to do this. But Joe, you know, he looked out at these people and he sensed that was going on, and so he made a big show to wave and smile at them, to show confidence, like he knew what he was going to do, he's going to be fine. But in reality, Joe really was terrified. In about 10 seconds, I'm going to hold something up in front of the camera that our team has been working on for over drumroll book ever. It's the one birth by him. So at the some weapons again. By 5:59 p.m., Joe had all 4 propellers spinning on the aircraft, and so he released the brake and began taxiing out to the runway. And as they bumped along, Joe and Bud became really aware of just how heavy this aircraft was from all the explosives. I mean, every bump, this plane is lurching up and down and really creaking and making lots of noises. I mean, this was sketchy. Finally, Joe went full speed ahead, and he and Joe went tearing down the runway, and at some point, the plane did get lift, and it took off into the air. And then just up ahead of him were 6 other planes that had just taken off moments before, who were going to escort Joe and Bud to their target area. Once Joe got the plane to its cruising altitude, he and Bud kind of relaxed for a second and began preparing themselves for what was going to happen next. They had about 15 minutes of just kind of casual flying before the real work of this mission began. The vengeance weapons that Joe and Bud were going out to destroy as part of Operation Aphrodite were located about 120 miles south, just outside of this little town in the very northern tip of France. But destroying these weapons would not be as simple as just Joe and Bud flying over top and releasing all their explosives and flying back home, because the Nazis had buried these vengeance weapons deep inside the hills in this town in northern France. And so regular bombs wouldn't touch these vengeance weapons. They had to do it a different way. And the way they were going to do it was Joe and Bud were going to fly their plane directly into the hills. And the way they would do this is they would fly their plane as close to the target area as possible, at which point one of the other pilots that were in the escort planes would take remote control of the B-24 flying bomb. And then once they had remote control, Joe and Bud, who no longer needed to do anything, they would jump out and parachute to the ground. And then the pilot who was remotely flying this now vacant B-24 flying bomb, they would just set it on autopilot to crash into the hills. At around 6:15 p.m., just as the English Channel came into view, Joe toggled a switch on his control panel, and then after he did, he and Bud kind of held their breath for a second to see what would happen. And then a couple of seconds later, the plane kind of shuddered for a second and then leveled out. And then a call came over the radio from one of the pilots who were in the escort planes telling Joe and Bud that they had just successfully taken remote control of the B-24. So at this point, Joe and Bud are no longer flying the aircraft. They're just sitting inside of this flying bomb. Now, there were only 2 things left for Joe and Bud to do before they could bail out to safety. They would need to arm the plane, so basically arm the explosives and make them ready to detonate. And then after that was done, they would need to call out over the radio, "Spade flush," the code Joe was given, which would signal to everybody else that the plane was ready and Joe and Bud were jumping out. And so once Joe and Bud nodded to each other and kind of acknowledged that, okay, we're going to do the last bit of this mission, Joe turned around in his seat and he looked at this control panel that was right behind him, and on this panel was the arming switch. And so once Joe flipped this, he and Bud would have a very short window of time to safely escape the aircraft. And so it was kind of like, you know, flip it, make the radio call, and get the heck out of there. But Joe and Bud had trained for this moment over and over and over again, so they were ready. And so eventually, Joe flipped the switch, grabbed his radio, and called out, "Spade flush." What Joe and Bud could not have known when the mechanics were making all these modifications to this B-24 was that one of the mechanics accidentally crossed some wires in putting in all these explosives. And so just seconds after Joe had armed the explosives, they detonated. They were not supposed to, but they did. And so Joe and Bud were killed basically a fraction of a second after calling out "Spade flush." But it would turn out the catastrophic failure of Operation Aphrodite had no impact on World War II. In fact, Operation Aphrodite should never have happened in the first place. It was totally unnecessary. What Joe and Bud and the rest of the American military didn't know at the time was 5 weeks earlier, the British Royal Air Force dropped a whole bunch of ground-penetrating bombs all across those hills in northern France, and they destroyed all of the vengeance weapons. So when Joe and Bud took off on this doomed mission, there was no threat to London. None. But That is not the big reveal in this story, because Operation Aphrodite changed the course of American history in a really specific and really enormous way. Because Joe, whose full name was Joseph P. Kennedy Jr., was a member of the very famous Kennedy family, a big-time political family in America, and at the time, the Kennedys were all saying Joseph is going to be the next president of the United States. And everybody believed it. He was going to be the guy. But then, of course, Operation Aphrodite changed all of that because Joseph was killed. And so the war would end about a year later, and when it did, Joseph's younger brother, John F. Kennedy, who won that award for heroism and got a Purple Heart early on in the war, and he kind of became a war hero, which prompted Joe to volunteer for Operation Aphrodite. Yeah, John would begin his unbelievable political rise. And by 1960, John F. Kennedy, JFK, would become the 35th president of the United States, even though he wasn't supposed to. He was the second choice. It should have been Joe.
Interesting. I didn't know this.
As I mentioned earlier, I am now going to go live on YouTube to discuss further our big announcement, our graphic novel. All you have to do to join this live event is click on the Live tab on my YouTube channel. During this event, I will cover a personal story from my time in the Navy.
What an
I'll also
excellent
chat with
waste
a few
of time.
special guests that helped make this book a reality. I'll share some more.
This video is brought to you by Mubi. Get a whole month free at mubi.com/docinema. After making the previous video about liminal spaces in movies, lots of people have commented that these empty and nostalgic places look a lot like their dreams. There's actually a whole genre on the internet dedicated to these dreamlike images. They give you a feeling you've been there before, but you don't know how or when. These so-called dreamscapes are also used in many movies, precisely to evoke a similar feeling. Besides, dreams and movies actually have quite a lot in common. They are images playing out in front of us while we're in the dark. They often contain places that feel familiar, yet are strange at the same time. And most importantly, they are both narratives created by our mind that allow us to enter an alternate reality. In this video, we're going to continue our liminal space odyssey and dive into the wondrous world of dreams. I made a selection of some of the best dream sequences in the history of cinema to show you all kinds of surreal locations and absurd visuals. So now, I think it's time to explore the strangely familiar world of Dreamcore. Especially in children's movies, the dream world is often associated with a colorful utopia, a place somewhere over the rainbow which can be entered through a secret door or portal, like in The Wizard of Oz or Alice in Wonderland, who falls down a rabbit hole and lands into a fantasy world that's full of weird people and animals. The doorway in cinema often represents that moment of transition, the threshold between two worlds or moments in time, and it's no coincidence that the famous liminal space subreddit has a doorway as its profile picture, because the word liminal comes from the Latin word limen, which literally means threshold, and so doorways and passages are essentially the ultimate liminal space.
But I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it.
The doorway gives characters a choice that leads them into the unknown. It could be an alternative world, a door to someone's mind, a new reality, or perhaps a dream. So are you ready to enter the dream world? Welcome to the dreamscape. The term is a combination of the words dream and landscape, and they are images or locations that look like something seen in a dream. They are often portrayed as actual landscapes with green hills and blue skies. Two movies that are often mentioned are Cat in the Hat and Toys, because of their colorful and dreamlike locations. They probably remind us of our childhood, like the days we were home alone while our parents were out of town, or the indoor playgrounds that felt huge when we were younger. These dreamscapes were popularized by this video on TikTok, which had 40 million views.
There exists a world that you can only reach between 3:30 and 3:33 a.m. Before you travel, I must advise you of a few rules.
Similar to the concept of the infamous backrooms, there supposedly exists a door to a world with its own laws and logic that you can only enter at a certain time. The video is part of a broader genre created by the internet called Dreamcore that uses images like the dreamscapes, videos, and music in order to recreate the general feeling of a dream.
And rule number 4, the most important of them all. Wear a watch at all times. Time is weird there, and if you don't have a clock on you, time will warp into nothingness and you won't know when to leave. That's all. Safe travels.
But here's where it gets interesting. In movies, the term dreamscape can also refer to the dream being an escape from a character's rather boring or restricted life into a utopian world. Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory, for example, is the ultimate dream world for kids. When Charlie finds the last golden ticket, it becomes his escape from poverty into a magical world full of candy, where suddenly everything is possible. And when Dorothy steps out of her grey house into the bright musical world of Oz, it signifies her escape from the restrictions of home. Characters often find themselves stuck in their day-to-day life, feel misplaced or bored in some way. They are in an emotional liminal space, like discussed in the previous video, and while they're trying to find a way out, escaping into a dream world seems like the only logical option. Like Alice, who in a moment of indecision sees a white rabbit that gives her a chance to escape. Or in Midnight in Paris, where the main character travels back in time to meet famous writers and painters.
Hemingway.
Hemingway?
All because he has difficulty living in the present. All these worlds are portrayed as utopias, but the word utopia is a combination of the Greek words ou, meaning no, and topos, meaning place. A utopia is therefore a non-place, a seemingly perfect world that is unrealistic or doesn't exist. In many stories, characters end up getting stuck in the dream world, simply because things are too good to be true. This happens in Coraline, Alice in Wonderland, Spirited Away, and Edward Scissorhands, who all wandered into a seemingly perfect world but now need to find their way out. But even worse, what if you never realized you were living in a dream world, and you've never actually seen the real world? Then following the white rabbit starts to get a whole new meaning. The Matrix subverts the idea of the dream world being the escape. Neo has been living in a simulated construct his entire life, called the Matrix, but when he gets a message on his PC, he is told to follow a white rabbit that leads him to Morpheus, who gives him the decision to stay in his dream or to wake up and see the real world.
You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
The most famous movie about exploring the nature of dreams is Inception by Christopher Nolan.
I don't want to watch
The movie shows
Matrix
how most of the
right
time
now.
we are unaware of the fact that we're dreaming, but occasionally we are able to transcend this barrier of unawareness. This concept is called a lucid dream. It's when you become aware that you're dreaming, allowing you to explore and even manipulate the dreamscapes. Kinda like this SpongeBob episode.
You know, Patrick, this is a dream. You can do anything you want.
Yep.
I mean anything. Watch. I can turn into a skyscraper going up. Huh? I can make a million of these. Huh? Tartar sauce. I'm going to a different dream.
Okay, bye, SpongeBob.
Inception uses a technology called dream hacking, which allows them to enter other people's dreams, like SpongeBob, and even enter a dream within a dream, within yet another dream. Time plays a huge role in Nolan's films, from severe time dilation in Interstellar, where 1 hour on Miller's planet equals 7 years on Earth, to the use of reverse time in Tenet, and so does this in our dreams.
I wasn't a
because we are
big
not
fan of
really
Tenet.
aware of the time passing. You might recognize this famous painting by Salvador Dali called The Persistence of Memory. This is probably the first dreamscape ever created, which dates back to the 1920s Surrealist movement. The melted watches refer to the fact that time and space are often distorted in our dreams. Just like in the back rooms, what feels like a decade might just be a few minutes in reality. And in Inception, the more dream levels they go down into the subconscious, the slower time starts to move. Some claim that Inception was inspired by the anime Paprika, as many of the shots and concepts are very similar. But if we are able to control dreams, can we also have control over time? The movie Primer had a budget of only $7,000 and is one of the most realistic movies when it comes to time travel. Two guys start experimenting with a time machine and change the past and future to make infinite money on the stock market, but they soon discover that their actions lead to dark consequences. The butterfly effect refers to the idea that small changes such as the flutter of a butterfly's wings can cause big changes in the future. A single decision could make your future look completely different. If Neo had taken the blue pill, the movie would have ended fairly quickly. The main character in Mr. Nobody has to choose between his mother and his father. In the seconds preceding, we see the rest of his life flash by, wondering where each choice
Mr.
will
Nobody's a
take
great
him.
movie.
Maybe you've ever had a deja vu. That strange moment when it feels like you've been somewhere before. Now imagine waking up one day, only to realize you've already lived that day before. Then waking up the next day and it's still that same day. And again, and again, and again. In the movie Groundhog Day, Phil has to relive Groundhog Day all over again. His quest becomes to escape this endless cycle. Sometimes we also have these recurring dreams, like Harry Potter, who keeps seeing the same doorway and strange people in his dreams.
Have there been others like this dream?
Yes. Always the same one.
Dumbledore has a pensieve, where he's able to store and review his dreams and memories.
Sir, these dreams, what I see, you don't think it's actually happening, do you?
I think it's unwise for you to linger over these dreams, Harry. I think it's best if you simply cast them away.
But while some are able to save their memories, others want to erase them. In Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, after a breakup, Joel and his ex-girlfriend use a machine to wipe all the memories they had with each other. But while the memories are slowly being erased, Joel wants to stop the process and tries to do everything he can to preserve them. All these movies show how hard it can be to distinguish the dream world from the real world, or distinguish the dream from another dream, or even the past from the future. This scene from Inception symbolizes the infinite amount of realities which can exist in the dream world, because the biggest threat that all these characters are facing is the potential loss of their grip on reality. That's why Cobb has a totem in the form of a spinning top. If it keeps spinning, you know you're in a dream, but when it stops, you're in reality. And Harry Potter has to undergo intense mind control training from Professor Snape to make sure his biggest nightmare does not become reality.
Concentrate, Potter. Focus.
You've been living in a dream world, Neo. This is the world as it exists today. Welcome to the desert of the real.
This brings us to the dystopian dreamscapes. A world where it becomes harder and harder to distinguish the real from the artificial is also explored by Blade Runner. It shows a dystopian future in which dreams and memories are just fabrications implanted in people's minds to make them believe they are real people. Officer K, however, might be the last person to have real memories and goes to the place where they are created to find out.
I know it's real.
Sometimes a character's isolation or imprisonment can lead them to create an imaginary world as well, like in the dystopian movie 1984.
Do you know how long you've been here? No. Weeks? Months? Do you know why you're here?
Hallucinations and dreamlike scenes are often used in movies where the main character is becoming mentally unstable. We see this in movies like Fight Club and Donnie Darko, where the main characters create alter egos caused by insomnia or schizophrenia. These unreliable narrators give us a hard time distinguishing fact from fiction because we experience everything from their perspective. And in Shutter Island, where the main character has daydreams of meeting his wife who passed away, only to realize that it was all an illusion. In Life of Pi, the main character has been surviving in the Pacific Ocean after a shipwreck, together with a tiger on a lifeboat, and after months he thinks he sees an island. This is called a Fata Morgana. It is an Italian term used for the mirages often seen by sailors in the Strait of Messina, who believed that they were seeing fairy castles or false land created by witchcraft to lure them to their deaths.
Words are all I have left to hang on to. Everything mixed up, fragmented. Can't tell daydreams, night dreams from reality anymore.
It makes the audience question, was there actually a tiger on the boat, or was it a figment of his imagination? We have come down to the last dreamscape, which is the unconstructed dream space. If you've ever seen any of these strangely familiar places videos, you've probably heard this song play over it. It's Just a Burning Memory by The Caretaker.
You were the caretaker here.
I'm sorry to differ with you, sir. But you are the caretaker.
The song is part of an album called Everywhere at the End of Time, and it's a 6.5-hour-long compilation of music that explores what it feels like to get dementia. It starts with nostalgic and dreamlike songs, but over time the distortion and reverb increases. Just like this video, we started with beautiful daydreams, went over to the surreal, confusing and broken memory stage, and now we're transitioning into our last destination, the post-awareness stage. The movie Vortex by Gaspar Noé shares the same trajectory, showing how an old couple slowly drifts away from reality because of dementia, and the movie ends with a liminal space compilation, with pictures of their empty apartment.
La vie est un rêve, non?
Oui. Un rêve dans un rêve.
The term limbo comes from the Latin word limbus, meaning edge or boundary. It is an uncertain situation, one that you cannot control and in which there is no progress or improvement. Or, according to some mythologies, it is the realm where a soul is stuck before it'll go to heaven or hell. In Inception, limbo is the last frontier, a dream vacuum where nothing exists and a dreamer's grasp on reality can easily be lost.
So what happens when we die?
We drop into limbo.
Are you serious?
Limbo?
Unconstructed dream space.
Well, what the hell is down there?
Just raw, infinite subconscious. Nothing is down there.
This is why it's so dangerous and feared by the team. Cobb and his wife had spent 50 years there because of severe time dilation. And when Harry Potter dies, he spawns in an empty space, not knowing his next destination.
Wonder if this video is gonna get me copyright strike, or not strike.
So
but
what is next? Perhaps nothingness. The afterlife, maybe. Depending on your religion or beliefs, this space might look completely different. Tree of Life by Terrence Malick ends poetically with families being reunited in the spirit world, and Andrei Tarkovsky uses cinema as a reflection on life, using flashbacks to his childhood and almost spiritual-like dream sequences. And Enter the Void by Gaspar Noé explores the Buddhist belief that our consciousness continues after death and may be reborn. But perhaps it's reincarnation, and we meet again in another life.
I want to live a real life. I don't want to dream any longer. I'll see you in another life, when we are both cats.
But no matter which one you choose, all these directors capture life as a reflection, and ultimately, life as a dream.
I'll be going now, Harry.
Professor? Is this all real? Or is it just happening inside my head?
Of course it's happening inside your head, Harry. Why should that mean that it's not real?
Dreams are like the theater of the mind. Just like movies, all dreams feel real while they're happening. And when you wake up, sometimes you're moved, sometimes you're terrified, and sometimes you've no idea what happened. The most mind-blowing part of Inception is that it's not only about dreaming, it's also about making a movie. The main character comes up with a concept called Inception, he hires people to create the dream, and each crew member has a specific role to make the illusion as believable as possible. And when the movie ends, the dream also ends, precisely because the movie itself was our escape from reality. They say dreams and movies are only true while they last, but can we at best say more of life? Because I think that life is the most beautiful movie we'll ever get to see.
Relax, David.
wow, that was a beautiful video.
Open your eyes.
Thank Thank you so much for watching, and if you want to watch more movies with similar themes, definitely check out Voyage of Time, Her, and Chungking Express on Mubi. Mubi is a place to discover ambitious new films and singular voices.
Would you like a free copy of BMO's residency personal statement book? Normally this is sold on Amazon for $19.97. You can grab yours now for free by paying just a small processing fee of just $5. Grab yours now by clicking the link somewhere around this video. It includes everything we know about how to
Play around with that idea. Just think this. Everything's perfect. We live in a perfect universe. Everything that's happening is perfect. And here, if you really want to get really fucking rancid, how about this? You're perfect.
Wow.
And you're exactly where you need to be. And exactly what's happening to you right now is perfect. It's just exactly right. You, right now, the way you are, in all your glory or all your fucking awfulness is beautiful and perfect, and you're gonna be fine.
This video is a collective of 4 years of watching Duncan Trussell, listening to his podcast, watching him on JRE. Every time he's on, the episodes are filled with thought experiments, and they've just altered the way I've looked at things, helped me in a lot of ways, and I know they've helped other people around me. So I decided to put this together. Hopefully I can help some other people as well. Go support Duncan Trussell. I have his Patreon in the description. Subscribe to Duncan's Patreon, follow him on everything, support him. If you want to support me, I am a merch designer. Check out some of my merch. There will also be a link in the description there. But yeah, thank you for watching and enjoy.
To me, I think that whatever's happening, you just have to make it a good thing. Like whether or not it is a good thing or not, that's if there is something great about humans, is that we're capable of alchemizing phenomena in a way that it doesn't completely drive us nuts or paralyze us. That's anything that's happening to you can be converted into something either that's going to make you scared, self-destructive, rationalize your anger, rationalize your shitty decisions, or it can be used as a thing that completely, quote, converts you, completely shifts your method or way of living. And that's what's beautiful about a human, is that at any given moment you can do that. Accelerate the evolution of your own life by overcoming the obstacles that are keeping you from getting to the part of the multiverse that you want to exist in. That's the first thing. And as you're doing that, the second part of it should be trying to help other people around you overcome the obstacles that are keeping them chained down in the harbor of sorrows, as I call it. And if you can start doing that, then the moment you start moving and the moment you free yourself from the guilt and the shame, then I have noticed that when I apply myself and work really hard, synchronicities increase by like tenfold for some reason. Coincidences start happening. Things start happening that normally never happen to me. And I think this is like, I think coincidences are like novelty sparks that are a result of you like hammering at like a metaphysical anvil, which is you're trying to work on your life, and the more you start doing that, all of a sudden these sparks start flying.
Byproduct.
There you go, and it's synchronicity, and that's the deal, man. You want those synchronicities. You want the novelty, you know? Things he talked about is in some religious tradition, how they like hold the scriptures. A rabbi like had his students hold the scriptures over their heart, and when they were memorizing them, and they would say, "Why do we do this?" And he said, "So that when your heart breaks, they'll fall in." And it's a beautiful idea, which is that heartbreak is actually your ego cracking. And the moment that cracks, you're in the experience of truth. And when you're in the experience of truth, that's when you can really become who you are. But to get to who you are, it's like when a bone heals the wrong way. Like that's what a lot of people's entire personality is. It's like a bone that grew the wrong way, and that needs a fucking a snap, a crack. And you get that through
And a plump.
You need that initial fucking thing, and
It's a beautiful analogy.
And it hurts. It hurts, but we're pain avoiding creatures, so we think that. So we're always running away from this pain. But the problem is, as we're running away from pain, we're still exactly in pain.
It's almost like we have a numb arm probing into the darkness, and that numb arm is scratching the fuck out of reality. And we don't know it because we just can't feel it.
Is when you have the balls to go into the darkness, and all of a sudden you realize that darkness was a complete illusion. All the darkness and negativity and spooky shit and guilt and fear and crap you thought was inside you and all the bad things you thought you've done and all the things that you feel terrible about secretly, you realize that's nothing. It's an illusion. The universe loves you. You're completely embraced by the entire universe. You're an incremental part of the functioning of the cosmos, and you're an incredible, wonderful, perfect fucking thing. And when you get a glimpse of that, it's the greatest feeling ever, because you're healed. Because that's what true healing is, man. True healing is realizing you were never sick in the first place. Like at any given moment, you can shed your operating system, theoretically. You could drop all of the hang-ups, all the weird shit. Are you jerking off 3 times a day? You could maybe take it down to 2 times a day. Are you drinking every single night? You can stop that. And to me, that's like, yeah, the future beings, whatever they are, I hope one of the qualities or one of the things they look back at is like, holy shit, those poor things had no idea how powerful they were. They were sleepwalking when they could have at any moment connected to the great truth, the divine, the glory of all things, and could have theoretically, any one of them, just one of them, could have converted the entire planet into an up-leveled, up-resonanced, up-consciousness utopia. But they all were sleepwalking. And then finally, somebody woke up for real. And I don't know, maybe I don't know what that looks like.
A lot of people have it very rough, man. And a lot of people, a lot of people listening to this are so fucking hard on themselves, and they don't apply the exact same thing that you're saying to apply to other people to their own lives. Like, so many people feel so guilty, so like they wake up in the morning and they think about some dumb fucking thing they did whenever they did it for whatever dumb reason, and they feel all this guilt, and they walk around like a dog with a droopy tail because they don't think they deserve love. And so I think that to get to the place you're talking about, which is a fucking awesome place, empathy for all human beings, loving everyone to the best of your ability, you got to start with the person closest to you, right? And that's you. That's your life. Like, you have to figure out a way to sit down, take an appraisal of your life. Don't skip anything. Don't ignore anything. Look at the whole way that you're playing the entire game, and understand that all the things that you've done that are stupid, what the fuck did you expect yourself to do? Like, you're temporarily existing in a dimension that is actively destroying you in every single moment. You're not going to be perfect. Give yourself a break. So you start with that. And then once you start, everyone's got a thing in them, right? Everybody has a thing inside of them that they don't like about themselves. Maybe not you, or maybe that thing's been reduced to some degree, but a lot of people, they think they're too fat, they think they're too thin, they think that their tattoo sucks, or they regret the way that they treated their parents, or they feel like they're not far enough ahead in their career. Whatever the fucking thing it is, man, everybody has this aspect of themselves that they're really unhappy with. So if you get really honest about the parts of yourself you're unhappy about, then you will be excited to learn that you've been being attacked by those aspects of yourself in the form of everyone you think's an asshole. So it's like you're projecting those parts of yourself out onto the world. So all the people where you're like, man, that guy's a fucking douchebag. Why would he ever fucking act like that? And can you believe that guy did that fucking shit? If you stop and think really hard about yourself, you'll discover that you are guilty of those very same crimes generally. And if you weren't, you wouldn't even notice it. You just are seeing parts of yourself you can't quite address. So the optimistic thing about this concept of loving everyone, or getting to the place of loving everyone, is that if you can figure out how to love yourself, it's very similar to wiping dog shit off your shoe. Because if you have dog shit on your shoe, everywhere you go smells like shit. And if you allow yourself the delusion that the reason everywhere smells like shit is because dog shit must be on every single surface in this entire planet, then you're going to be in hell. But what a glorious moment when you look at your shoe and you're like, oh, just shit on my shoe. The entire planet isn't covered with shit. It's actually just shit on my shoe. And like in the same way, once you recognize that there's a little piece of karmic dog shit that's gotten stuck inside of your life, and instead of hating that piece of dog shit by torturing the people around you who manifest the same propensity you dislike in yourself, you forgive that part of yourself and actively learn to love it, or at least just understand that it's there because it was trying to protect you when you were a kid, and it manifested as a callus to keep you from whoever was fucking with you, and that's why you don't like it, it'll shift a little bit, man, and you will notice a significant reduction in that swarms of assholes that were previously surrounding you. It's a fascinating thing. Suddenly people just stop bugging you as much, and that's because you've gotten into yourself and you said, I love you, you did the best you could do, you didn't know, you were half asleep, you were fucking drunk.
It's not imagining that when people connect to this divine source, it immediately says, oh, hi, yeah, this is the part of your program where you were supposed to start remembering what's really going on here and reconnecting with me. Don't worry, don't feel bad, it's okay, everyone goes through that. In fact, you requested a disconnect for the last 15 years when you were getting hammered and imagining you were Charles Bukowski or whatever. Like, if this was all part of the plan, that was actually teaching you what happens when you don't take care of your body. Now, we're like connecting, sending a download to you, letting you know, hi, it's us, we're here. We're not mad at you, how could we be? We're infinite. We've been here since before the stars. You wanted this to happen. My apologies for cutting off your ball, killing your mom and your dad.
Jesus.
You know what I mean? But whatever, this is all part of a bigger thing. And I think that's, to me, what God is. It's this constantly rejuvenating, synchronistic perfection that becomes increasingly perfect, and it exists simultaneous to this seemingly imperfect universe. And it's always there for you to connect to at any moment. That's a beautiful thing. So I think the reason for it is not to scare people. It's more so that people become like fountains for that. And in some small way become little droplets or like divine bits of perspiration bubbling up into this place, so that folks who are really freaking out right now or worried or scared or disconnected could have at least the chance to reconnect.
And for me, it toggles where I'll care a lot and then I'll care a little bit less and be a little more selfish.
Yeah.
Like, do you have a practice that drives you into deeper care?
No, I mean, I don't think it would be like honest to say that I have a practice that does that, but I do have a practice that has taught me not to freak out too much when I'm in the not caring state. You know, so because or a way of looking at the sort of penduluming in between those two places, which a lot of times get associated with the head and the heart.
Yeah, totally.
The head's the thinking robot thing, and the heart is just pure love, pure caring. It's the child consciousness. I'm not always in my heart, and a lot of times I'm way up in my fucking head, pure robot mode. And if I start feeling like, oh my God, I'm numb, I'm not caring, I don't feel anything right now, I don't care, then that doesn't do anything to get me out of the head.
I'm gonna get off soon, probably after this game, whether I die or not.
I do land in those spaces.
But until
I
then,
just remember that every single other time I've ended up there, it doesn't last. Like inevitably, like I get back into my heart, back into my life, back into myself. And that way I don't freak out quite as much when I go robot, you know?
I struggle with that, I guess, a little bit. You know, like no matter how many times I've made it through one of these little crucibles when I'm in it, or I'm in kind of scarcity or self-doubt or in this removal from my heart and in my head and not caring, you know, I'll be like, oh, fuck, here it is. I fucked it up. I'm broken. And I have a little bit of that faith, but definitely not enough. And always when I ask questions about like, what do I need more of? It's always like more faith. Like if I'm in contact with what I feel like is either my higher self or divine guidance, it might all be the very same thing. And it's like, what do I need? It's always love yourself and have more faith. It's like very simple instructions.
Infuriating. It's infuriating. That shit is so infuriating because you want it. The thing, the reverse maze Sherpa.
Yeah.
He or they want it to be complex.
Yeah.
Like they don't want it to be like just fucking drink more water, go get some sun.
Yeah.
Maybe like it's not a good idea to drink vodka 3 weeks straight.
You know what I mean? Like, very simple. And then all of a sudden you're feeling good again. You're in your heart. Allow yourself to imagine that you are a limitless, super powerful, creative force that, with focus and discipline, can, starting right now, create a temporal wave of positivity that will not only roll through your physical form and manifest as health and getting into shape and having more energy and just feeling good, but will actually roll out of the cave of your mouth in the form of angelic words that spontaneously erupt at odd moments in the day. And those have been called prayer, where all of a sudden you find yourself just saying thank you to nothing in particular, or to everything. Imagine, just for a second, that that's what you really are. That you can be a kind of fountain of bliss that goes erupting into this dimension, a volcano of joy that explodes into your particular community. And it can happen in an unexpected way. Just like out of the blue, volcanoes will suddenly explode. In the same way, out of the blue, you can start exploding love into your family and friends and work and business. And not in a bullshit way, not in the phony bullshit way where people explode love when really all they're trying to do is make you feel like a goddamn asshole because they're better than you, but in the actual way where suddenly you don't even know what you're saying, but you're saying just the right thing at just the right time to the person who needs to hear it, and you don't even know why. And you don't even have to worry about why, but it can happen. These volcanoes have been exploding throughout history.
By kind of just my own ability to have something different than I thought my fucking world, than I thought the world was. And it's so scary to realize that there's more out there than this very specific world that I had created and that I needed a lot of times for survival. You know, growing up, if you grow up in a tough environment or in a environment where there's not a lot of feelings and love, then you'll create whatever you have to, whatever checks and balances make sense for you for survival.
Yeah, that's right.
But to get out of that now and it's like you kind of push and you're like, oh fuck, a board fell off this back wall, and like, what's out here?
Yeah.
And you reach out there and like the air feels different and you're like, fuck, dude.
Yeah. You know, the truth is, it is a simulation, you know, and we told you that before you linked into the thing, and we told you it would wipe your memory and that you would feel like you were helpless in the sense that the thing you are right now, you don't know what the power that you wield. So you chose that, just so you know, and we said that in this moment we would do a thing where we alerted you of the fact that you had intentionally decided to dive into a simulation, making you limited. You're very powerful. You're Thor. In the human world that you're in right now, you're actually Thor. You're a powerful Norse god that has gotten sucked into a very temporary magic spell that isn't even that powerful compared to the powers in the world you come from. But right now you have become convinced that you are a limited identity in the mortal realm, which you requested, by the way. You said, I want to be an insurance agent, real estate agent, school teacher, psychologist, fireman, cop. I wanted to be a pilot, somebody who was a flight attendant, someone who worked in a museum, teacher, somebody who was a historian, a failed writer, a failed comedian. And you became this temporary thing, but the truth is you're a god and you're confused. Joe, welcome back.
Oh my God.
And that feeling inside of you that comes during heartbreak is not a feeling that is happening because you've lost someone that you've loved. It's a feeling that's happening because you have come into contact with the truth, which is that you are one tiny infinitesimal fragment of this what may have been the first heartbreak of all time, which was when everything became a something. And you are experiencing within you that kind of broken, fragmented sense of I'll never be whole again. And as dire and dismal as that sounds, the beautiful idea that is in a lot of different religious systems is that in this human incarnation, you can actually heal that feeling. So you're like the Big Bang. You're like this broken fragment of the Big Bang that for this little bit of time that you're here, you can turn the focus of your attention inward and begin to love that scream, love that initial thing that made everything explode. And then if you can heal yourself, then you'll begin to transmit that to the people around you. And the big, sweet, awesome, beautiful hippie idea is that if we all start doing that, then eventually the universe will, as it inevitably falls back into itself, fall back into itself not as a scream of existential horror and agony, but as a kind of ever accelerating, exponentially increasing state of super orgasmic bliss. And that's why we're here. Shit. Cool.
But I would say he wasn't being himself. What I would say is that his behavior was so extreme because he was seeking balance between that and the other bullshit in his life. Whereas if he weren't living that, he'd be right in the middle.
Right. Yeah, well, but to get to the middle, the way to get to the middle, weirdly, is whatever the behavior is that you're doing that you're so horrified about and terrified of. Sometimes the really weird ideas, this is like something that I like that Ram Dass says, which is like, if you don't feel like meditating, don't meditate. Don't force it. Don't impose this on yourself. Keep doing the thing you're doing that's upsetting you so much. Have the balls to keep doing the fucking thing that you're doing. Keep doing it. Society is going to tell you, don't be like this. Stop being like this. You have to change. That's what your parents always say. The idea is like, no, sink into what you are right now. Just be that thing. Stop resisting. Exactly where you are right now is perfect. And that's a hard truth to grasp because you think right away, yeah, what about fucking Jeffrey Dahmer? Is he perfect? Well, what about the leopard? When you're seeing a leopard rip apart a creature, is that a perfect moment?
I don't think the leopard fucks them and then kills them.
But you know what ducks do? Ducks are necrophiliacs. Are they fucking evil creatures?
Yes, I think they are.
Well, yeah, they are.
They made that film.
Because, listen, man, if I was God wanting to get blasted, if I was some divine being wanting to get high, and Alan Watts has a beautiful lecture on this, I really do think at some point I would want to cut off all connection to the realization of my divinity and experience infinite lifetimes on a planet, on a tumultuous planet, and experience every incarnation and all of it to get an understanding of what it is like to be extremely limited. And what would this do? It would just add to my data banks. It would just help me increasingly become more and more beautiful and perfect, which seems to be what we're in right now. It's like we have a limited data set based on our neurology. We can't see certain colors. We can't hear certain sounds. We don't know what happened 20,000 years ago. We don't know what happens 5 seconds from now. And so this is a perfect place to be in becoming, to know what it is to become and to be limited. And this is, who knows, man, it's just something sniffing data. It's something just like, it's like snorting our lives, like the universe is snorting our lives on time. And on the mirror of time.
Well, it's the big thing, right, that keeps us from seeing that. And the one thing that all psychedelics have in common is the dissolving of the ego. They all dissolve the ego.
You're kind of a student of some of this world, and you love that.
Well, I mean, it's just like what you were talking about. Oh shit, I've got feelings. Oh my God, my universe is 1,000,000 times bigger. The idea that we being a human being means.
Yeah. It's scary.
It's scary, but it's expansive. What it means is like you are living in this crazy form, and the form itself will trick you into thinking that, oh no, this is it. These